What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
5 Shish. Chapter 121. Don't just stand there for a few days and kneel again. Part 3 asks for subscription. Father. Just when Third Raikage felt unbelievable that he was still alive, Ai's voice immediately woke him up in surprise. Tekken, what do you want to do? Enduring the pain, Third Raikage dragged his stump to get up from the pile of broken logs. Aren't you going to take Cloud Shinobi Village to declare war on the old man? Then let this old man take a look at your Third Raikage's enlightenment. Quote. Carl said, snapping his finger on Ai, who was still in shock. Boom. Ai Lian didn't even have a chance to react, and only had time to scream. He had already flown 1,000 meters away, and his whole body was inlaid on the stone statue of Senju Hashirama that Tsunade and others had just helped up again not long ago. What? After recovering from his breath, Ai subconsciously wanted to break free from the stone statue. The whole body was pitch black. If the black lightning entwined on it were removed, it would appear to be sparse and ordinary broken trees and branches coming from a distance, into his stomach. As the son of Third Raikage, he obviously inherited a tough body and the extremely powerful lightning-style armor, but it is useless in front of this branch. Hey, Third Raikage anxiously tried to rush over. But he didn't take 2 steps, but a strong weakness came from his body, which made him fall directly to the ground. Since you Raikage from Cloud Shinobi think kneeling is enough, you don't want to kneel anymore, and want to stand up, then let me show you why you are walking a path that even first generation I dare not take. With his physical fitness, even if he is nailed to it without eating or drinking, he can last at least a week. Don't just stand up for a few days and then kneel down again, you will be very disappointed if you are so old. After nailing Ai to the stone statue in the Valley of the End, Carl was not afraid of Third Raikage, or other Cloud Shinobi to rescue him, and turned away. Do you want to keep him here? Orochimaru looked at the wounded Third Raikage who got up from the ground. The tawny snake eyes flashed a flash of murderous intent at first, but it faded away immediately. Since Iron Fist didn't kill Third Raikage, he didn't dare to make his own claim. Although it's a pity to miss it, you don't need to pay attention to the shadow of Ninja Village who has entered the countdown of life. Even if the old man doesn't make a move, he and Cloud Shinobi Village are finished. Quote. Danzo also had similar thoughts in his heart, but finally gave up. Even though Third Raikage almost killed him on the battlefield before, after thinking about it, he decided to give up the chance to kill a generation of movies. Old man, what should we do now? Facing the sudden change in front of him, Jiraiya frowned. I thought that the Third Ninja World War would be ended by Iron Fist. Not to mention that there will be no more wars in the ninja world, at least there will be a long period of peace. But it happened at such a juncture that Ai's assassination happened. Master Third Generation, I think we should resolve this war as much as possible. It is not worth destroying the hard-won peace for the sake of Ai. Quote. Namikaze Minato said after pondering for a while. Stupid. What kind of war? It's just a dying village, what's there to fear? Since they don't want to die and want to kill Carl, what are you doing with them? Danzo snorted coldly. He knows why Sarutobi Hiruzen, who ranks above him in F4, is suddenly unable to secure the position of third Hokage. Naturally, it was impossible for Iron Fist to do something that made Iron Fist dislike him when the fourth Hokage beckoned to him. Even if it's hard-won peace, it wasn't brought by Konoha himself, but picked up after Mr. Carl's A*. Orochimaru smiled coldly, causing Namikaze Minato's face to change slightly. Mr. Sarutobi, although Orochimaru's words are not very pleasant, it is indeed an indisputable fact. Not to mention that our peace in Konoha was originally brought back by Carl Uncle with a punch and a kick, but just to say that this incident was originally a fault of Cloud Shinobi. As soon as the letter of surrender was presented on the front foot, the assassination came on the back foot. If it weren't for Carl Uncle, our Konoha Shinobi here would have gone to see the previous generations of Hokage. Quote. Hearing this, Tsunade also supported Orochimaru. Quote. Lord Third Generation, even if this happened, Lord Carl didn't care about Cloud Shinobi, he just chose to only punish evil. What happened like this is, after all, Third Raikage's own insistence. Nara sighed for a long time, and other Konoha shinobi who were almost killed by Killer Bee's tailed beast bomb also supported Orochimaru and Tsunade's statement. But, Namikaze Minato saw that many former friends and classmates were fighting against him one by one, and they were all against him, so he was a little confused. Okay, goodbye. Didn't Master Carl say that I Huan Ha Jiao can last for about a week? Since there is still time, let's go back to Ninja Village and discuss it later. Sarutobi Hiruzen is not a resolute person, facing the situation in front of him, he is also confused and at a loss. Although he is more inclined to Namikaze Minato's proposal, after all, Third Raikage is not only declaring war on Iron Fist, but also declaring war on Konoha. This is where he can't sit still. But if he really wants to stop Carl for an AI, he is not so brave, let alone so great. It is true that he is cowardly, but no matter how cowardly he is, he will be divided into targets. Following Carl, picking up the fruits of victory in the Third Ninja War, Konoha at this time may not be said to be unprecedentedly strong, but he is not afraid of a Cloud Shinobi village. Chapter 122. Who do you think you are? That's Carl's black knife. The fourth update asks for subscription. Let's go. Minato. Gzmo Ruo Fu, although Namikaze Minato is not his own son, but a disciple. Seeing that other Konoha shinobi followed third Hokage back to Konohagakure, Namikaze Minato stood still, looking preoccupied, and Jiraiya knew what he was thinking at a glance. Mr. Jiraiya, I don't know why I always have a bad feeling. Namikaze Minato forced a laugh at Jiraiya, and looked far away at I who was nailed to the Valley of the End. You mean Cloud Shinobi Village? Don't worry about it, not to mention that they are facing an iron fist, just say that the current Cloud Shinobi is only 2 or 3 big and small cats, except for third Raikage, the others are not to be feared. Even if our Konohagakure confronts them, we can gain the absolute upper hand. Quote. Jiraiya patted Namikaze Minato on the shoulder. He didn't think too much about it. After all, even if Konoha's strength has been declining since the death of Senju Hashirama, but no matter how backward, from the First Ninja World War to the time before the Nine Tails Rebellion, Konoha has an overwhelming advantage against any ninja village. In the 3 Ninja World Wars, the reason why Konoha 167 fought so hard and was always on the way to retreat is because Konoha has always been in 1v3, or even 1v4. From Jiraiya's point of view at this time, if Rock Shinobi, Sand Shinobi, and Mist Shinobi do not intervene, only one Cloud Shinobi can't even stir up 2 or 3 waves. I can't say why, just a very uneasy feeling. Ai's incident seems to trigger unprecedented changes. Quite possibly even scarier than the Third Ninja War. Quote. Faced with Jiraiya's relief, Namikaze Minato not only did not breathe a sigh of relief, but became more depressed. Just because of that I who was nailed in the Valley of the End. Jiraiya frowned. No matter how he thought about it, he didn't think I had such energy. Just a son of the third Raikage, sending out something more terrifying than the Third Ninja War. It can't be said that it was caused by him, it can only be said that it has something to do with him. Namikaze Minato thought about it seriously. BFEA. Okay, don't think too much about it. Isn't this matter still settled? Maybe Iron Fist will be in a better mood in a few days, maybe there will be a turning point. Seeing Namikaze Minato staring at I all the time, Jiraiya thought of something, and his face suddenly became serious. Minato, don't say that I, the teacher, didn't remind you. Don't do stupid things. For example, let I go in private. Other things, your teacher, I can help you, but this matter, let alone me, even if you pull Orochimaru and the old man together. Quote. He first looked left and right to make sure there were no other Konoha shinobi around, and then lowered his voice and said to Namikaze Minato in a deep voice. Don't worry, Jiraiya-sensei. No matter how worried I am, it is impossible for me to be demented enough to do such a stupid thing because of my intuition. Quote. Seeing that Jiraiya's tone was full of warning, Namikaze Minato quickly assured him. That's good. Jiraiya nodded, and then refused to allow Namikaze Minato to say anything, and dragged him away. Feeling a little worried, he secretly decided to keep an eye on Namikaze Minato for the next few days. Just when Jiraiya was worried and half pushed and half pulled Namikaze Minato back, he rested on the ground for a while, and third Raikage, who was able to get up, immediately ran towards the Valley of the End. What the hell kind of branch is this? On the other side, I, who was nailed to the Valley of the End, grasped with one hand the black branch that pierced his abdomen and nailed his whole body to the stone statue, and pulled it out with all his strength, enduring the piercing pain. But this branch made the Buddha and the whole huge stone statue merge into one. No matter how much he pulled it, he couldn't pull out the branch from the abdominal cavity. Chi. Seeing that the branch could not be pulled out, Ai's eyes froze, his right hand clenched into a fist, and the lightning-style chakra mode was turned on instantly. Lightning straight. In the next second, he raised his hand and slammed it on the branch in front of his stomach with all his strength. Click. The scene that I had expected of the branch being smashed did not appear, but the moment he hit the branch with his fist, his 5 fingers were broken on the spot, and a cloud of blood sprayed out from the back of his hand. How is this possible? That was obviously just an ordinary tree branch. How could it be impossible to destroy even the lightning straight? The third Raikage who had just rushed to the Valley of the End saw this scene, eyes straightened. How strong Ai is, he knows better than anyone else. Looking at Cloud Shinobi Village, apart from himself and the dead Killer Bee, Ai is absolutely invincible. Even in the face of the contemporary 5 shadows, they can wrestle their wrists, but in the lightning-style chakra mode, using lightning straight is actually unable to shake a branch thrown casually by the iron fist. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, even if he was beaten to death, he wouldn't be able to believe such a thing. Father, you shouldn't have done this just now, G. I turned his head sideways, his eyes flickering a little, not daring to look at third Raikage. All of this is a foregone conclusion, and it is useless to say more. The most important thing now is to rescue you first. Third Raikage interrupted Ai's self-blame, then held up a finger. Hold up, I'll smash the branch that nails you to pieces right now. After speaking, he activated lightning style the strongest armor, and raised his finger to stab at the black branch nailed to Ai's abdomen. HMPH, breaking branches. Who do you think you are? That's Carl's black knife. Not to mention you are only a 3rd generation, even the 1st generation I Fusheng couldn't break the branch on that kid's abdomen. Quote. But just when the hand of third Raikage was about to touch the branch, a disdainful and arrogant voice suddenly sounded in the ears of the movie Father and Son. Chapter 123 Sengoku Senji Classmate Reunion. The 5th update asks for subscription. A rat who hides his head and shows his tail. Facing the sudden voice, third Raikage's body froze, and then turned around abruptly. At this time, he just realized that there was a figure whose face was covered by a vortex mask behind him at some point. Black knife. Do you mean the branch that nailed me to the statue? Sure enough. No wonder Iron Fist pinned me here, turned around and left without even looking, not at all afraid that my father would rescue me. Quote. Although I was curious about the identity of the masked man, he was more concerned about the black knife mentioned by the other party just now. Mice. Ha ha ha, this is the first time in my life that I hear someone call me that. I really don't know whether it's better to say you're brave or ignorant. The masked man slowly opened his eyes. Even with the vortex mask blocking them, a pair of scarlet and blood-like Sharingans were still exposed to the air. Sharingan. It turned out to be Uchiha's rats. No wonder you have to wear a mask to dare to come out to meet people. Quote. Third Raikage was taken aback, but he had no scruples as he had already broken his face with Iron Fist and Konoha. Don't think of me as Konoha's group of Uchiha who have lost their pride and dignity and can only tremble in front of Carl. The masked man said disdainfully. If that's the case, then why do you have to wear a mask? Third Raikage's heart skipped a beat. Could it be Uchiha's canon? I wear this mask only for convenience. After all, if my face is seen, it will probably scare many people. Of course, it will also make me less fun. After all, I plan to give him a surprise. The masked man looked at Third Raikage with a half smile. Joke. The old man is not even afraid of an iron fist, but he is also afraid of your face. Don't find so many good sounding reasons for your behavior of hiding your head and showing your tail, and not daring to see people. Third Raikage said coldly. Just now he had already fought in front of the iron fist. Maybe in a few days, not only will there be no mention of Raikage in the ninja world, but there will also be no talk of Cloud Shinobi. Do you really want to see it? The masked man's tone became more playful. Third Raikage didn't speak, but looked at the masked man coldly. Then you have to open your eyes wide and don't blink. The masked man chuckled, and then under the eyes of Third Raikage, Ikong gradually changed from curiosity, surprise, disbelief, and shock, and took off the mask on his face. You, aren't you dead? Third Raikage looked at the man who took off the mask, and then at the stone statue behind I. Uchiha Madara. I looked up at the mask of the stone statue above his head, and then couldn't help taking a breath when he looked down at the black-haired man below. At this moment, both Raikage and his son were stunned. Sengoku Sanji class reunion. It doesn't matter if Iron Fist comes out again, why even the dead Uchiha Madara is back. What made them even more unbelievable was that Uchiha Madara's face actually looked like he was in his early 20s, without any signs of aging at all. Is this the ninja era turning back? Or has the era of the ninja world never changed at all? The death of Uchiha Madara is nothing but the result that most people in the ninja world hope to see. As you might think at first, Carl is old for a reason. Quote. Uchiha Madara said while putting on the vortex mask again. At first, when Black Zetsu suggested that he put on a mask for the convenience of doing things, he still resisted. But now, after admiring the wonderful expressions of Third Raikage and his son, he suddenly felt that it would be nice to wear a mask. Asking for flowers. He does not know that it is inconvenient to act, but it is certainly convenient to pretend. Then you came back this time to rule the ninja world. Third Raikage suppressed his shock. Then why did you come back? I'm not interested in that kind of thing. It's just that Senju Hashirama longed for peace and didn't want to fight anymore. Finally, in the face of the fetters and strength of first Hokage, Uchiha Madara let go of the unified ninja world that was only one step away. Uchiha Madara's tone was full of disdain. To Uchiha Madara, there is nothing more attractive than the unified ninja world. In his opinion, there is only Tekken Carl. Third Raikage's eyes sparkled. Other than that, he really couldn't think of anything else. Because they all know that Uchiha Madara at his peak really almost unified the ninja world. To Fangfo, unifying the ninja world is just a matter of his fingertips. One of the three masters, and he still has no intention of destroying the 5 great ninja villages, let alone changing the existing order of the ninja village era. Iron Fist just came out of the mountain for a month, and the entire ninja world has been turned upside down. He really couldn't think of anything more attractive than unity in the ninja world at this time. If I really want to do it, I don't know how many times I have unified the ninja world during the years when Carl disappeared. Whether it's Third Raikage or I, both of them take it for granted. I couldn't help asking. It's because of Iron Fist. Here is another one who may be the most powerful among the 3 heroes, but Uchiha Madara is definitely the one who likes to do things the most. Do I need to wait until Carl comes out of the mountain before I appear again? 2 Sanjis appearing in the ninja world at the same time, what kind of terrifying storm will it cause? Even in a few days, I will become the shadow of the dead village, but Third Raikage still feels scalp numb just thinking about it. Chapter 124. It's time for a change in the unchanging ranking of the 3 heroes. Subscribe to Chapter 6. After so many years, the ranking of the 3 heroes has remained unchanged. It's time for a change. The corners of Uchiha's mouth slightly raised, his right hand was raised, and the awe-inspiring haki between 5 fingers, and the powerful momentum made Third Raikage and I feel terrified. Are the 3 masters of the Sengoku era all monsters? Third Raikage and I Shang glanced at each other, seeing horror in each other's eyes. Just the momentum is so terrifying. No wonder Uchiha Madara was able to compete with Iron Fist in the Sengoku era. Since you want to compete with Iron Fist again, then you can go to him anyway. Why do you still appear in front of our father and son? After a while, 953 suppressed the shocked Third Raikage and said immediately. To find Carl. What do you think the fight between us is? A ninja game for kids. As far as what you call Hokage dance, there is also a stage called Ninja War. Let alone us, Uchiha Madara said condescendingly. It's like this again. These old ghosts from the Sengoku era don't pay attention to the ninjas and ninja villages of our era. Third Raikage was short of breath. Carl is like this. So is Uchiha Madara. Maybe the first Hokage, who is said to be Konoha's strongest and most humble, is the same. What does that have to do with you coming to us? I stared intently at Uchiha Madara below. I want you father and son to prepare a stage for me. One to welcome me back from Uchiha Madara, one to carry me to dance with Carl, and one to witness me becoming the strongest in the ninja world. Uchiha Madara paused every word, his voice full of undeniable taste. In a few days, there may be no such thing as Raikage and Cloud Shinobi in the ninja world, why should I help you? Although there are grievances between Cloud Shinobi, Raikage and Iron Fist, but there may not be any good friendship with you Ninja Shira. Back then, you were always dedicated to destroying our Cloud Shinobi village. Third Raikage was seldom upset when Uchiha Madara pushed him around. Before, he might still endure it. But now he and Cloud Shinobi village have entered the countdown of their lives, and in a few days they will be sent to the Pure Land by Iron Fist. At this time, even Uchiha Madara, and the young Uchiha Madara can't let him bow his head. Do you want to live? Do you want this kid alive? Do you want Cloud Shinobi to live? Uchiha Madara crossed her arms and said arrogantly. Save I first. Third Raikage's face was cloudy and uncertain. Working with Uchiha Madara, that is definitely seeking skin from a tiger. But does he still have a choice now? Caught between two Sanjis, his only option is to fall to one side. You have no right to bargain with me. There are only two paths before you. Promise me, Cloud Shinobi will still be alive in a few days. Reject me. Don't wait a few days for Carl to make a move. Today you, him, and Cloud Shinobi will completely disappear from the ninja world. Uchiha Madara chuckled and shook her head. You just said that this is Iron Fist's black knife. I think you can't break this thing at all. I sneered with an ugly face. The extremely boring aggressive method is just the product of Carl passing armament hockey in casually. Although powerful, it is just a rootless duckweed. As long as the armament hockey on it is exhausted, it will turn back into an ordinary branch. What's more, now I have mastered the same level as that kind of thing, and it is also a very similar product. Uchiha Madara said while flashing a stick. As long as you are willing to save I and Cloud Shinobi village, I will give you whatever you want. Third Raikage just glanced at the black stick in Uchiha Madara's hand, and was immediately moved by a strong threat. It felt as if there was a voice in his heart telling him that facing this kind of black stick, his strongest armor would be as brittle as paper. Smart choice. Go ahead and contact Onoki, Yi Kang, and Gufu Tiankang. No matter what method I use, I persuade them to send troops to besiege Konoha. Quote. Uchiha Madara scattered the black stick and showed a satisfied smile. You are going to start the fourth ninja war. When I and Third Raikage heard this, their faces changed drastically. Don't you guys think the backdrop of the fourth ninja war is often applied to me dancing with Carl? At least compared to the peaceful ninja world, I prefer a stage full of wars. After all, when the three of us competed against each other, the ninja world happened to be the Sengoku era of war. It's a pity that Hashirama is really gone in 5.8. If he was there, it would be perfect if he could defeat him and Carl at the same time under this kind of stage. Uchiha Madara's tone showed a touch of arrogance, a touch of excitement, and a touch of madness. But Third Raikage and I felt chills when they heard it. Is this Ninja Shura? Set off the fourth ninja world war and make the 5 ninja villages completely fight, just to create a stage similar to the Sengoku era. This man really doesn't regard ninjas as human beings, nor does he take the ninja world seriously. Chapter 125 The Four Shadows form an alliance. The first update asks for subscription. Iwagakure. Chunin Wanya glanced at the door of Tsuchikage's office, then walked in, half kneeling down to Onoki. Master Tsuchikage, this is information from Cloud Shinobi. The son of Third Raikage, Ihuo, together with Eight Tails Jinchuriki Killer Bee, and Cloud Shinobi she secretly sneaked into the Land of Fire in an attempt to assassinate Iron Fist. As soon as Chunin Wanya said this, Onoki who was staring at Wangtu's photo suddenly woke up in a daze. What happened? Onoki couldn't help asking. Eight Tails Jinchuriki created a tailed beast bomb bigger than a mountain, only to be shattered to pieces by a blow from the Iron Fist. Immediately afterwards, Eight Tails Jinchuriki was pulled out of Tail Beast's body, Cloud Shinobi was decapitated, and as for before he died, Third Raikage arrived with Heaven's Gift technique, trying to exchange his life for his life. After the negotiation failed, he declared war on Iron Fist. After that, I was nailed to the stone statue of Uchiha Madara in the Valley of the End with a black branch by Iron Fist, and Third Raikage returned to Cloud Shinobi village alone, intending to mobilize all the ninjas in Cloud Shinobi village to join the battle. Bunya reported the information obtained by Iwagakure lurking in Cloud Shinobi and Konoha's spies 15 reports. The reckless man is still so reckless after being shattered with the strongest spear and shield. As Raikage, he wasted the lives of the entire village for just one eye. Second Raikage is also a character, but he was chosen as the third Raikage at the beginning, and he was also blind. Onoki curled his lips in disdain. Don't you want to kill a son? It's as if no shadow has ever killed a son. His Onagi's son was the first to die in the ninja war. Not every ninja cage can be as great as Tsuchikage-sama. For the safety of Rock Shinobi, I am willing to bear the pain of losing my son. When Wenya said this, he made no secret of his respect and admiration for Onoki. When there was no comparison, he was already impressed by Onoki. Now there is third Raikage, who is also a shadow and is about to die, for comparison, which makes Onagi's greatness even more obvious. Onoki closed his eyes, feeling a sudden pain in his heart. Originally, he also despised third Raikage in his heart, but when Ya said it, for some reason, he was inexplicably envious of the third generation movie. Maybe the reckless third Raikage is not a qualified shadow, but he is definitely a qualified father. At least, as a father, Onogi is not as good as third Raikage. I'm sorry, Master Tsuchikage, it was my subordinate who made a slip of the tongue. When Ya saw Onoki's expression, and knew that he had said something wrong, which reminded Onoki of the pain of losing his son. It's okay, it's about you. Old man Tsuchikage, something serious happened. Onoki took a deep breath, forcibly suppressed the grief of the white-haired man giving away the black hair, and was about to comfort Ya with a few words, telling him not to panic. Four Tails Jinchuriki Laozi suddenly pushed open the door and forced his way in. Won't you knock before you come in? Onoki scolded with a stinky face. Don't worry about whether Laozi knocks or not, something big happened to Cloud Shinobi. Laozi waved his hand. Isn't it that I was nailed to the stone statue? It's not that you, old Z, were nailed to the stone statue of first Hokage. What a big deal. That reckless third Raikage wants to drag him to Cloud Shinobi village to meet first generation and second Raikage, so is it possible that this old man can still drag him by force? Onoki said unhappily. No. Raikage sent an alliance letter, inviting us Rock Shinobi to attack Konoha together. As soon as Laozi said this, the entire Tsuchikage office fell silent. Did that reckless man get his head smashed by an iron fist, or did Jinchuriki die, and his son was about to die, too sad and crazy? He's going to die himself. Why did he call on the old man? Does he think the old man's IQ is at the same level as his? Onoki was stunned for a while before he came back to his senses. He said you would definitely agree. Laozi handed a torn alliance letter to Onoki. Why? On a different day, Onoki had already lost his temper when he saw Laozi dismantling the letters that he could only read arbitrarily. Four shadows meeting, attack Konoha together. But now, third Raikage's operation was a bit beyond his expectation, which made him no longer even bother to pursue Laozi. Four shadows talk. The release of any one of these three things was enough to cause an uproar in the entire ninja world. What is even more jaw-dropping is that whether it is Tsuchikage Onoki who was the most cowardly, or Yekora and Yagura who have experienced the pain of bereavement together not long ago, they all agreed. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Third Raikage sent an alliance invitation to Tsuchikage Onogi, Kazekage Hakura, and Mizukage Yagura. However, after multiple verifications, it was confirmed that the four major ninja villages had not only formed an alliance, but also jointly dispatched 30,000 ninjas and launched a full-scale attack on Konoha 2 days later. Quickly discuss coping strategies. It's because third Raikage, after returning to Cloud Shinobi village, in addition to mobilizing troops and condemning generals, also did something that shocked all forces in the ninja world. Uchiha Madara, Killer Bee dies. A name. Third Raikage raised his troops in anger, pouring out the strength of the whole village to fight the Iron Fist to the death. After this shocking and sensational news reached third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, his first reaction was impossible, absolutely impossible. Although there are rumors that Terumi Mei, the first genius of Mist Shinobi, strongly opposed it, and wooed many wonen to propose to abide by third Mizukage's will, to seal the village, but was opposed by Yagura, who became Three Tails Jinchuriki, and put him under house arrest. Son of Raikage nailed to the Valley of the End. Laozi took a deep breath, and spit out a name that made Onoki's face horrified. But now, these three things happened at the same time, but they were all suppressed to the point where no one cares about 447, but not many people pay attention to Shen. Chapter 126 Minato, have you seen the iron fist that tears the sky? Second update asks for subscription. Impossible, absolutely impossible. When Konoha F4 and the patriarchs of the major ninja families gathered in the meeting room, and Sarutobi Hiruzen announced the alliance of four shadows and the dispatch of troops to Konoha, everyone's reaction was almost the same as his withdrawal at that time. Onoki, are you crazy? When his son Huang-Tu died, he swallowed his anger and sent a letter of surrender. Now someone else's Raikage is about to die his son, he actually sent troops to Konoha. Danzo was stunned. As a person who has fought against Onoki many times, he is very aware of Onoki's urine. A person who is more tolerant than him. And Onamu lived up to his expectations. After Huang-Tu died, he surrendered directly. As Huang-Tu his son, or I his son? That old guy won't bear the pain of losing his son for too long, should he? Mitokado Homura and Udatane Kaharu also looked at each other in dismay. When his own son died, Onoki was indifferent. The son of the Raikage family was nailed to the Valley of the End, and he dragged the entire Iwagakure into battle. Even if Huang-Tu's surname is not Da, I is not Da. Not to mention F4, even the patriarchs of the various ethnic groups present are in disbelief. It's crazy for a big wild tree to go to war. What about Kazekage Hakura, Mizukage Yagura? The four shadows went crazy at the same time. How much do you think the possibility is? Orochimaru frowned. Something must have happened, and there must be some reason we don't know, which prompted the three shadows to be crazy enough to agree to Raikage's alliance, and they did not hesitate to pull their respective ninja villages. Naruto pondered for a moment, reached out and knocked on the table, and everyone looked at him in unison. Although I don't know what it is for the time being, it must be this thing that forced them to take the risk. He continued after seeing everyone quiet down. I really can't think of anything that would make the four shadows choose to take risks at the same time. Jiraiya grabbed a handful of hair. At this moment, he still hadn't recovered from the shock caused by the four shadows alliance. Perhaps, maybe it's not a desperate attempt. Nara Lujo's heart moved slightly. Luju, did you think of something? Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't help asking. I can't even say what I thought. We can only say that from our point of view, Sighing is walking a tightrope, but from their own point of view, maybe they are not walking a tightrope, but walking a broad road. Quote. Narashika hesitated for a moment. What makes them think that together they can defeat Lord Karl? As soon as Uchiha Fugaku said this, everyone's faces tightened slightly. Yes, only when Sighing saw the hope of defeating Iron Fist would such an incredible alliance appear. Everyone, please speak next. Namikaze Minato, who had been silent since the meeting, suddenly spoke. Minato, tell me, I think everyone would love to hear your opinion too. Sarutobi Hiruzen saw that the person who stood up to speak was Namikaze Minato, and immediately said with a cheerful face. Compared with Orochimaru, Danzo, the blonde youth in front of him is the third Hokage he likes most. Only when Namikaze Minato becomes the fourth Hokage can he be the third Hokage. If someone else has changed, whether Danzo or Orochimaru becomes the fourth Hokage, he is no longer the third generation. I think this has gone beyond our expectations. The alliance of the four shadows, coupled with the unknown secret behind it, is enough to trigger a disaster more terrifying than the three ninja wars. If we don't deal with it well, maybe our Konoha will really be destroyed. As soon as Namikaze Minato's voice fell, it immediately caused an uproar. Minato, aren't your words a little too alarmist? Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't expect Namikaze Minato to say such a thing. I also wish I was alarmist. However, when I saw I being pinned in the Valley of the End by Master Karl, I already had a very uneasy feeling, as if something terrible would happen. It turns out that this is not my illusion, but real. Maybe I is not enough to cause such a terrible thing, but he is the fuse that led to this thing. Namikaze Minato sticks to his guns. Quote. Then according to what you see, how should you deal with it? Sarutobi Hiruzen said thoughtfully. First, mobilize Konoha's spies in the four great ninja villages. They must be fully assembled in the four villages. Before sending troops to Konoha, they must spy on the information that prompts the four shadows to form an alliance. Second, take the initiative to fight, inform the ninjas in the village, and prepare for the war at any time. Third, and I think the most important point, I think it's time for us to meet Lord Karl. Quote. At the first 2 o'clock, even Orochimaru and Danzo, who realized that Namikaze Minato would become their competitors, could not jump out of the slightest error, but when Namikaze Minato said that he wanted to meet Karl, Danzo couldn't wait for Orochimaru to open his mouth jumped out to object. Minato, it seems you still haven't given up. At this time, he still thinks about letting I go. I really doubt whether there is any secret between you and him. Got it, after all, you have a golden flash and a blue flash, even the names are so similar. Danzo said coldly, how terrible the alliance of four shadows is, I don't know. I don't know whether the secret that prompted the union of the four great ninja villages can destroy Konoha. All I know is that if Konoha is really standing opposite Master Karl, you don't need to wait for Sighing to come, you can go to see Master First Hokage today. Quote. Orochimaru leaned back in his chair, staring at Namikaze Minato's snaking path, flashed a cool look. Minato, have you seen the Iron Fist tearing apart the sky? It doesn't matter if you haven't seen it, and it doesn't matter if you haven't heard of it. You might as well ask everyone here. I think the patriarchs and ninjas who have been lucky enough to witness Lord Karl's attack once. Crack the Sky. Chapter 127. No, you came at the right time. Part 3. Please subscribe. Namikaze Minato looked around at everyone. He found that whether it was the three members of F4 and Jiraiya who had always supported him, or Inoshika Cho, Inuzuka, Kurama, Hyuga, or Uchiha who was squeezed to the edge of power, they all showed disapproval. I suggest that you all go to see Mr. Karl, although I have the idea of letting him take his life back, but this is only the most ideal situation. In addition, I also hope to find out from Mr. Karl the mastermind behind the Alliance of Four Shadows. As Lukaku said, Hokage must have seen the hope of defeating Master Karl, and this is how the ninja village united. I think only Master Karl can give us the answer to this matter. Putting all these aside, Four Shadows is also coming for Mr. Karl, and it is very necessary for us to inform him. What do you guys think? Namikaze Minato sighed inwardly. He knew that it would be impossible for the major ninja families in Konoha F4 to persuade Karl to change his mind. Fortunately, he didn't put all his hopes on this point either. I have no objection. 817 originally objected, but the resistant Konoha executives no longer resisted at this time. Since everyone agrees with what Minato said, then the old man, Minato. I'll go too. It happened that Tsunade was there too, and if she and I were there, Lord Karl should not be offended. Quote. He didn't wait for Sarutobi Hiruzen to finish speaking, because he had already spoken first. Then I'll go too. Jiraiya glanced at Namikaze Minato, didn't know what to think, and followed suit. Okay, then let's go together. Danzo, Homura, and Kaharu are in charge of preparing for the battle. All patriarchs, please compile the list of ninjas for the battle as soon as possible, and then hand it over to them. Quote. Sarutobi Hiruzen frowned. He didn't really want to take Orochimaru there, but the other party had already opened his mouth, so he couldn't directly dismiss it. After all, even if he objects, Orochimaru can't go by himself. It is undoubtedly not worth it to have a rift with Orochimaru for such a trivial matter. As for Jiraiya, he was originally from his own side, and even Orochimaru was brought along, not bad. With the alliance of the Four Shadows and the Black Hands behind the scenes, Sarutobi Hiruzen immediately announced the end of the meeting after finalizing the candidate, and then rushed to Konoha Houshin with Namikaze Minato, Orochimaru, and Jiraiya. Didn't we come at a very bad time? But when the four of them came to a wooden house standing on the edge of the lake in the back mountain, their expressions were a little awkward. Of course, the embarrassing ones are Sarutobi Hiruzen and Orochimaru. Jiraiya, the master and apprentice, was secretly happy, and they came to follow. Without him, in the eyes of the four, Carl took off the iconic black suit and white shirt on the battlefield, put on shorts and slippers, and was shirtless, revealing his strong, hockey muscles, lying on his stomach sunbathe on a beach chair. It doesn't matter. What really makes Jiraiya and Namikaze Minato's heart bleed is that Tsunade and Uzumaki Kushina are holding hands at this moment, stepping on Carl's back like bat wings. No, two hills with bare feet, lifting the jade feet lightly, stepping on the back very seriously and attentively. What's more terrible is that whether it is Tsunade or Uzumaki Kushina, although they are not completely naked at this time, they BFCG only put on a white bikini and a red bikini. Such an eye-popping back-stepping service, who knows what it will look like after stepping on it. Sarutobi-sensei, why don't we come back later? Orochimaru suggested. Having witnessed Carl's two wars in Land of Earth and Crossing of Water, he already knew the truth about Tsunade's little thoughts, but he didn't say anything about it. Well, we didn't come at the right time anyway. Although Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't really want to leave, he didn't dare to look around. Even if one is his disciple and the other is his subordinate. No, you came at the right time, you will be old and have to take a nap later. If you have anything to say, just say it now. I will fall asleep later. If anyone wakes up the old man, don't blame the old man for nailing him to the stone statue of Senju Hashirama to be Aishouzi's companion. When Sarutobi Hiruzen and Orochimaru were hesitating whether to avoid it first, Carl, who was lying on the chair and enjoying the benefits of stepping on the back of the first and second beauties in Konoha, slightly raised his eyelids and glanced at the four of them. Said just now. Namikaze Minato and Jiraiya were shocked when they heard the words. Nap. Got it. No, nothing can make this nap a reality. They don't worry about Carl going off fire, they only worry about Tsunade, Uzumaki Kushina playing with fire and playing with fire. After all, after so many years, they have never heard of Carl having similar gossip. However, at this time, Tsunade and Uzumaki Kushina's eyes were short of the words cannibalism, and their pretty faces were short of the words jealous. Such eyes, such expressions, can this pair of masters and apprentices who have been in love with the two girls secretly for decades or more than 10 years but have never held hands, can they not be nervous and panic? Master Hokage, we are all here, and Master Carl also said so you can cut to the chase. Namikaze Minato was afraid that Sarutobi Hiruzen would be self-effacing and say something about coming back after a nap, so he hurriedly persuaded him. Old man, I also think it's better to start talking directly. After all, we have already disturbed Master Carl, so it is not easy to salvage it a second time. Quote. When Jiraiya heard this, she understood and joined the ranks of persuasion. Chapter 128 Master Carl, Minato is bold, I hope you can let I go, subscribe to Chapter 4. Orochimaru, you said third generation I allied with three shadows to deal with the old man. After listening to Orochimaru tell a series of things about the Four Shadows alliance, Carl raised his head slightly, but he didn't intend to let Tsunade and Uzumaki Kushina come down. Yes, Orochimaru nodded slightly respectfully. His admiration for Carl stems not only from the other party's strength, but also from the existence of Carl, which has subverted his research over the years. Although he has not embarked on the path of living corpse reincarnation, but after reading a lot of ancient books and various researches, he has realized that since chakra existed in the ninja world, in the history that can be traced, there is often only one who can really reach the peak. A small group of people, and that small group of people basically come from several ninja families. Senju, Uchiha, Hyuga, Whirlpool, Kagaya. Except for these families, it is not that no one can reach the peak, but those people are basically inextricably linked with these five families. Either mastering the techniques of these families, or owning part of the blood of these families. Only Carl in front of him has nothing to do with the Senju, Uchiha, Hyuga, Uzumaki, Kagaya and other families, but he can bring out the powerhouses from these five ninja families in the Sengoku era. All were overwhelmed and unable to lift their heads. This kind of thing is also unique in the history of the ninja world that Orochi has learned about. As the Four Shadows allied. Well, the old man knows. Quote. Carl pondered for a moment, then lightly picked his nostrils and grinned. Except for Orochimaru who had long guessed, Sarutobi Hiruzen, Jiraiya, and Namikaze Minato saw the man in front of him knowing about the alliance of the Four Shadows, and there was no panic or solemnity on their faces. He didn't even have a serious look on his face. Instead, he showed the expression he would only have after seeing an interesting game or toy, and he was stunned. Obviously, Carl's reaction was completely beyond their expectations. Don't he think that the alliance of Four Shadows and the joint dispatch of troops from four ninja villages is a fun game? After Sarutobi Hiruzen had a panoramic view of Carl's expression changes, he couldn't help but feel a slight chill in his heart. Is this the top monster of the Sengoku era? Regardless of strength, vision, and mentality, they are completely different from those in the ninja village era. Even if he is one of the 5 Kages, he has mastered the most powerful ninja village in the ninja world, but when he learned that the 4 Kages formed an alliance, his first reaction was disbelief, his second reaction was shock, and his third reaction was fear and worry. However, as the enemy of sighing, Carl laughed. Nothing else, you can go. Carl smiled, and put his head back on the chair. Lord Carl, don't you think this is a serious matter? The 4 shadows formed an alliance and sent 30,000 troops. With a battle of this scale, the ninja world is definitely not as simple as rekindling the flames of war. At that time, the whole world may go backwards and return to the Sengoku era where there are only wars, fighting, destruction, and looting. You are the one who ended the Sengoku era with your own hands, don't you want the ninja world to return to that terrible state? Before Namikaze Minato came, he had thought about Carl's many reactions after learning about the incident, but he never thought that Carl would be so nonchalant. Originally, he thought that Carl, who had ended the Sengoku era, would definitely not want to see the ninja world regress and return to the Sengoku era. And then, what do you want to say to the old man? Carl's eyelids lifted slightly, and he glanced at Namikaze Minato, who looked excited. Minato, that's a bit rude of you to say that. Jiraiya saw that Namikaze Minato was getting agitated, and quickly gave him a sideways glance. Don't be rude in front of Lord Carl. Sarutobi Hiruzen broke out in cold sweat from behind. At this moment, he regretted a little, and if he had known earlier, he would have only brought Orochimaru here instead of Namikaze Minato to get acquainted. Originally, he had hoped that Namikaze Minato would make Carl look at him differently. After all, he knew that Namikaze Minato was the only Konoha shinobi who had learned and improved the Flying Thunder God technique since second Hokage. Maybe he can get into Carl's sight by virtue of the Flying Thunder God technique. 0. However, he never expected that Namikaze Minato did catch Carl's attention, but the way he got it scared him half to death. Sorry, Lord Carl, I lost my composure just now. Namikaze Minato took a deep breath. Fortunately, Minato finally knows the importance of relationships. Seeing this, Jiraiya and Sarutobi Hiruzen just breathed a sigh of relief, but Namikaze Minato suddenly said something surprising. However, I still have one thing I want to say to you, Master Carl. Minato has the guts to hope that Master Carl can see that it was hard won in the ninja village era, and peace is even more hard won, and let I go this time. As soon as Namikaze Minato said this, the expressions on the faces of Sarutobi Hiruzen and Jiraiya froze instantly. The students of Jiraiya are really brave enough. Tsunade and Uzumaki Kushina, who were stepping on Carl's back with their bare feet, had half of their latissimus dorsi, also paused slightly when they stepped on their backs. As expected of that idiot Jiraiya taught me, the idea is really ingenious. Orochimaru lowered his head and didn't speak, but his face was covered by the long black hair hanging down on both sides, and his expression was extremely wonderful. There is wonder, admiration, pity, and wind and love. Chapter 129. Are you teaching the old man how to do things? Blonde boy, please subscribe to the 5th update. Boy, you said you asked the old man to let I go. Carl's eyelids were lifted slightly, and the pupils exposed to the air gave people an extremely deep feeling. Can't tell if it's angry or calm. Yes, this is no longer between you, Lord Carl, and Cloud Shinobi Village. I has become a fuse, and if he is not careful, he will ignite the flames of war that will stretch across the entire ninja world. This will be a disaster that is more terrible than the primary and secondary ninja wars. I beg Master Carl to release I for the sake of peace. Don't talk about ninja world peace, just talk about Konoha. It was founded by your old friend Senju Hashirama, and it was also your former host Carl-sama. Carl-sama can come out again for the descendants of his old friend. Even if you want to come to Chi-san, you don't want to see it because of your momentary anger. Konoha was devastated and completely disappeared in the flames of war. Quote. Namikaze Minato nodded. Finished. Carl stared at Namikaze Minato. Namikaze Minato nodded nervously. Facing Carl's gaze, he gradually felt an indescribable sense of oppression. The man in front of him was lying casually on the beach chair, and he didn't even exude any murderous aura, but just staring at each other simply made him feel a lot of pressure. Let it go, ha ha ha, are you teaching the old man how to do things? The blonde boy. While talking, Carl closed his eyelids and didn't look at Namikaze Minato more. That, Master Carl, I don't think Minato meant that. Although Carl was laughing, both Sarutobi Hiruzen and Jiraiya's foreheads were dripping with cold sweat uncontrollably. Fearing that Namikaze Minato would really anger Carl, the two hurried forward to explain. Old man is getting old, but not old enough to have hearing problems. Blonde boy, you have said so much to this old man, so this old man also has a question to ask you. Quote. Carl interrupted Jiraiya and Sarutobi Hiruzen without looking up. Master Carl, please speak. Namikaze Minato saw Sarutobi Hiruzen and Jiraiya wink at him frantically, signaling to himself not to speak out again, but he had already spoken just now, so he could only bite the bullet and say it. After the old man came out of the mountain, he went out 4 times in total. For the first time, hundreds of ninjas from Rock Shinobi were wiped out. The second time, I cleaned up the 3rd Raikage, and solved 100 or so Cloud Shinobi. For the 3rd time, Risako, Chio, and Ebizo were dealt with. The last time, it solved Balian and 3rd Mizukage. The 4 times I was fighting, I was not doing peaceful things. Why didn't you come out and hug me? Why didn't you jump out and say a few words? Why didn't you come out and teach Lao Shi to do heavy work? Just like you did just now, Tell me not to kill Rock Shinobi, Cloud Shinobi, Sand Shinobi, Mist Shinobi for the sake of peace. Carl's tone was not harsh, on the contrary it was very gentle. But it was this kind of gentle tone, and the words that came out were like thunder in the ears of Sarutobi Hiruzen, Jiraiya, and Namikaze Minato, making their heads and ears buzzing. Namikaze Minato's face was a little pale. I don't know if he didn't know how to refute, or because he was affected by the surging pressure in his heart like a stormy sea, and his breathing gradually became a little heavy. Following the old when you are picking up the cheap, you don't come and jump out. Why? Because you are one of the beneficiaries, the whole Konoha is a beneficiary. Now there is an alliance of 4 shadows, sending 30,000 troops, and they are still targeting the old man, but you are here to teach the old man how to do things. Why? Because you are afraid that the old man will not be able to handle the 4 shadows and the black hand behind the scenes, so that you will no longer be the beneficiary, and Konoha will no longer be the beneficiary. Quote. As soon as Carl said this, the faces of Jiraiya and Sarutobi Hiruzen could no longer be described as pale, they looked bloodless and terrified. Lord Carl, please calm down. Minato, and we definitely didn't mean that when we came to the door today. How dare Sarutobi Hiruzen give Namikaze Minato a chance to speak? Originally, I wanted to be familiar in front of Carl, but now I am too familiar. But there is one thing, I hope you better understand that in the ninja world, the old man does things. 4.4 does not need to be explained to anyone, and no one can teach the old man to do things. It might even implicate him. Before, he was extremely satisfied with Namikaze Minato, thinking that Jiraiya had taught a good disciple and was a person who perfectly inherited his will of fire. Obviously, he didn't think he was wrong. It's just a sentence or two, and it's not an ugly one. Naturally, he won't care about a child who hasn't grown up. Minato, don't hesitate to apologize to Lord Carl. Quote. Namikaze Minato uttered wild words, he was not angry, and even a little dumbfounded. Namikaze Minato opened his mouth, but he didn't say the apology that Sarutobi Hiruzen and Jiraiya wanted to hear. At this moment, he regretted so much that he pulled Namikaze Minato here. Jiraiya frowned, not daring to take a breath. In his eyes, Namikaze Minato is just like third Raikage whom he met for the first time, just a kid who didn't grow up. I don't care if you said these words, because of Konoha, or because of the little red-haired girl behind the old man. Senju Hashirama can't, Uchiha Madara can't, as for you, 100 years too early. I didn't expect that at my age, I would attract jealousy, and the object was Namikaze Minato. After Carl finished speaking, he ignored Namikaze Minato. In the end, it was indeed perfect, but it was too perfect, which made him feel that he couldn't grasp it. Chapter 130 Is your surname Senju too? Please subscribe to the 6th update. Uzumaki Kushina. Sarutobi Hiruzen first took a look at Uzumaki Kushina, who was dressed in an extremely bold outfit, and then Namikaze Minato. They all understood why Namikaze Minato was so brave just now. Heart of Konoha. Yes, there are also ninja worlds. But if it was the usual Namikaze Minato, it would definitely not be possible to say such words at such a time. The only reason is that there is a fuse. Just like I being the fuse of the alliance of 4 shadows, although it is not the key, it is the beginning of what makes things happen. Uzumaki Kushina was the trigger for Namikaze Minato's gaffe today. No wonder, the teacher understands your feelings. But this can't be your reliance on reckless behavior. Jiraiya sighed inwardly. He could understand Namikaze Minato's feelings, really thought he was happy to see Tsunade sending Carl a lot of benefits. Seeing Tsunade's outfit and the huge benefits, his mood is even more complicated than that of Namikaze Minato 15. It's just that as someone who has experienced it and is much older than Namikaze Minato, he will not lose his composure like Namikaze Minato just now. Sorry, Master Carl, I'll have Minato taken away immediately. He offended you today, and I will definitely bring him to your door to apologize to you someday. Quote. After Sarutobi Hiruzen finished speaking, he gave Jiraiya a wink. If he hadn't come here this time to find out from Carl who was behind the scenes, he would have pulled Namikaze Minato himself instead of Jiraiya. There's no need to apologize. The old man is not from Konoha, it is normal for him to have such thoughts. It is human nature to urge advantages and avoid disadvantages. Besides, man, who hasn't been young and frivolous? In a word or two, the old man is not so old as to care about him. If he didn't want to teach the old man how to do things, the old man would still laugh and watch the fun if he was jealous. Quote. Carl waved his hand. Tsunade, who stepped on him, glanced at Uzumaki Kushina mockingly, as if to say, settle your own affairs before coming to fight with me, an elder. What is this Namikaze Minato doing? You talk as soon as you talk, how can you drag me into it? Really, I am afraid that my impression score will be quite a bit behind Tsunade-sama right now. Seeing this, Uzumaki Kushina felt a little helpless. Her attitude is already very positive, she is serious and polite every time, and she refuses Namikaze Minato relentlessly, without giving the other party any thought. But Namikaze Minato doesn't give up, and this kind of thing happens, what can she do? She is also very helpless. Thank you for understanding and magnanimity for not fussing with this kid Minato. Sarutobi Hiruzen breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, the Shura field that he was most worried about did not happen. Just now when Carl said, "Are you teaching the old man how to do things?" he was so frightened that his hands and feet were cold. Let's go. Presumably he has nothing in common with the old man. Carl waved his hand and drove away directly. Minato, follow me. Seeing this, Jiraiya felt relieved, and quickly reached out to pull Namikaze Minato away. But when he grabbed it with his hand, he directly grabbed a cloud of air. Namikaze Minato, who was standing in front of him just now, avoided his hand and landed in front of Carl. Minato. Seeing Namikaze Minato's actions, Sarutobi Hiruzen frowned. Before, he just regretted it, but he didn't have much dissatisfaction with Namikaze Minato. After all, his thinking is actually similar to Namikaze Minato's, even more serious. He also felt that it was Carl who rejected Third Raikage's one life for another life, and directly nailed I in the Valley of the End, which led to the Four Shadows talks, and this led to the situation where Konoha faced the siege of the four great ninja villages. He even had the idea of asking Carl to let I go, but he was so deep in the city that he just had the idea and would never act. Straight Namikaze Minato's repeated hesitation finally made him a little angry. Lord Carl, you are right. Maybe it was because of Kushina, I was indeed a bit jealous just now, I am sorry if I offend you. But, aside from Kushina's point of view, it's also on my mind. I don't think that Konoha's crisis is caused by Mr. Carl, nor do I feel resentment towards Mr. Carl because of this. Although I don't agree with Mr. Carl's actions in some places, I am more grateful. If you hadn't come out of the mountain, Konoha would never have become the biggest winner of the Third Ninja War so easily. Although Minato is not a great ninja, he is so bad that he ignored what you gave Konoha, Mr. Carl, because of Kushina. Grace. 360 inches. Namikaze Minato half kneeled on the ground and said every word. Jiraiya and Sarutobi Hiruzen, who originally wanted to stop him and forcibly dragged him away, looked at Carl's face, and after making sure that the other party was not angry, they did not make another move. After all, with Namikaze Minato's speed, if they really want to stay here, it will be difficult for them to sleep. Now that Namikaze Minato's performance has broken away from jealousy, and Carl has no signs of getting angry, and the performance of driving people away in anger, they can only forcefully suppress their inner worries and look at Namikaze Minato quietly. I hope Master Carl can look at the face of the ancestor Hokage and give me a chance to listen to me calmly. Namikaze Minato took a deep breath to clear his mind that had been affected by the relationship between men and women. Although there was something about Uzumaki Kushina, he clearly knew that he came here this time not to be jealous, but to have more important things. Your last name is Senju too. Facing Namikaze Minato half kneeling in front of him, Carl suddenly showed a hint of playfulness on his face. Chapter 131 I want to ask Mr. Carl for advice on the Flying Thunder God technique. Please subscribe for the first update. No last name. Namikaze Minato shook his head. Your mother's last name is Whirlpool. The playful look on Carl's face intensified. Nor last name. Namikaze Minato's complexion was a bit ugly. Obviously, he already knew why Carl asked. Since your father's surname is not Senju, and your mother's surname is not Whirlpool. Why do you think the old man will do what you say? Do you think that you are blonde like Konoha, and I want to listen to you, or do you think that the Senju brothers are so proud that I have to listen to every Konoha shinobi? Carl couldn't help feeling amused when he heard Namikaze Minato's words. A teenage kid trying to teach himself how to do things. A kid in his teens wants to tell himself the truth. Think too much. Senju Hashirama, Uchiha Madara are not qualified to come. I took it for granted. Indeed, I am not as fortunate as Master Tsunade, but a descendant of the ancestor Hokage. But I still want to fight for this opportunity, and I hope Lord Carl will grant it. Quote. Namikaze Minato took a deep breath, and a sharp look appeared in his eyes. Minato, do you know what you're talking about? Jiraiya's expression changed suddenly, and she couldn't sit still anymore. He suspects that Namikaze Minato is really in love. It was just moving his mouth just now, but now he actually wants to do it. Master Carl, excuse me. Sarutobi Hiruzen was even more straightforward, direct, and decisive. He reached out to drag Namikaze Minato away, but was dodged by Namikaze Minato. Only then did everyone see how fast Namikaze Minato was. Without any movement, it was like a golden flash, moving tens of meters away out of thin air. Want to fight the old man? You don't think you can bring the old man to its knees by force, do you? If you really have this kind of ability, then you don't have to come to the old man today, you can settle the alliance of Four Shadows, the coalition of 30,000 ninjas by yourself, and even the black hand behind the scenes that you have been worrying about is not your blonde boy killing alone. Carl shook his head and laughed. Master Carl, you have lost your dignity. No matter how confident I am in my own strength, I haven't overestimated myself to the point where I can defeat you. Namikaze Minato took out a handful of Flying Thunder God kunai from his ninja bag while talking. After that, I heard about one of your legendary deeds from my teacher. Master Carl, you not only defeated Master Second Hokage, but you also clamped Master Second Hokage's Flying Thunder God slash with only 2 fingers. Minato has a heartfelt request to ask Mr. Carl for a lesson or two about the Flying Thunder God technique. After speaking, he raised the Flying Thunder God kunai, and stared at Carl firmly. You think you are stronger than Tobirama? Carl heard this, Fangfo became a little interested. He waved his hand and stopped Sarutobi Hiruzen, Jiraiya who wanted to continue to shoot. No, I just learned 1 or 2 forbidden techniques from Master Second Hokage, how dare I compare myself to Second Hokage? Not to mention stronger than Nadaime. Namikaze Minato said hastily. Although he learned the Flying Thunder God technique of Second Hokage, and even improved Flying Thunder God, he dare not say that he surpassed Second Hokage. It was after learning the Flying Thunder God technique that he knew the power and knowledge of the second Hokage. Needless to say, as far as the pile of forbidden techniques created by second Hokage stored in Konoha Forbidden Technique Curry, there is always one that can clean up Namikaze Minato. He has walked into the Konoha Forbidden Technique library and witnessed the library-like mass of forbidden techniques. Except for monsters with overflowing combat power like the Sengoku Sanji, he really doesn't think anyone in the ninja world can deal with Senju Tobirama. However, if it's just Flying Thunder God, I still have some confidence that I can surpass Nadime in speed. When it comes to Flying Thunder God and speed, Namikaze Minato's face reveals a strong confidence. When it comes to speed alone, let alone second Hokage, even if it is Iron Fist, he doesn't think the opponent can surpass him. Oh, it seems that you are very confident in your speed. Although Carl didn't open his eyes, he could feel Namikaze Minato's emotional changes. I want to make a bet with you, Lord Carl. If I can beat Master Carl in speed by luck, and do something that Master Second Hokage can't do, I hope Master Carl will give me a chance to talk to you. Quote. Namikaze Minato knelt down halfway and said in a requesting tone. Compare the speed with the old man. You kid is really brave enough. Since Tobirama, Konoha is the only one who dares to say such things in front of the old man. Quote. Carl sighed, then asked back. Then what if you lose? As soon as the words came out, everyone knew that Zhao Lihaoer had already agreed. Perhaps Namikaze Minato's confidence. Perhaps it was the Flying Thunder God technique that piqued his interest. Of course, it's also possible that Namikaze Minato has had enough of the noise. But, anyway, he agreed to give Namikaze Minato a chance. If I lose, I'll leave immediately, and I won't say a word, so that Master Carl will be clean. Namikaze Minato said the words word by word. Comparing his strength, he didn't even dare to think about Carl's terrifying performance in the 4 battles after he came out of the mountain. But if it is simply a speed comparison, then he is still a little confident. As he said just now, as far as Flying Thunder God technique is concerned, he has already surpassed second Hokage, faster than this real ninjutsu professor. Chapter 132 You can make the old man leave the chair. You win part 2. Please subscribe. Okay, now that you have said that, if the old man still refuses, it will appear that the old man is really afraid of you. Facing the speed battle initiated by Namikaze Minato, Carl did not refuse. Master Carl, you are too serious. As the hero who is the head of the Sengoku 3 heroes, no one in this ninja world is worthy of your fear. Namikaze Minato saw that Carl agreed to his own bet, but he didn't dare to make too much of it. Okay, you don't have to pretend to be good here. Since the old man has promised you, he will not go back on his word. Quote. Carl waved his hand. Carl uncle, let's get down first. Tsunade, who hadn't spoken since Orochimaru's arrival, suddenly spoke. No need, go ahead. But when Tsunade and Uzumaki Kushina were about to come down from behind Carl, Carl shook his head. Aren't you going to compare speed with Minato? Tsunade was a little puzzled when he heard this. The jade feet that had been put down were also put back on Carl's back. Uncle Carl, don't you want to compare yourself to Namikaze Minato? Uzumaki Kushina saw that Tsunade would not go down to 817, so naturally he would not go down. But when she saw that Carl not only did not let her and Tsunade get off the back, but even let them continue to step on the back, she asked a question in disbelief. Any questions? Carl closed his eyes and said as a matter of course. This, how does it compare? Otherwise, Kushina and I should come down, and after the bet between you and Minato is over, let's continue. Tsunade froze. Not only her, Jiraiya and the others also had expressions of disbelief. Don't make it so troublesome, just do it like this. Carl didn't have the slightest intention to get up, nor did he have the slightest intention to stop the 2 girls from Tsunade. Seeing this, although Tsunade and Uzumaki Kushina were extremely shocked in their hearts, they couldn't help but feel strong expectations in their hearts. If it's anyone else, they have only one thought. Court death. But as a person who has seen Carl's shot, while being surprised BFBC, what he was thinking in his heart was how Carl was going to compare speed with Namikaze Minato when he was lying on a chair with Tsunade and Uzumaki Kushina on his back. Master Carl, are you sure you want to compare me like this? This is not a battle between ninjas, any means are required. Even if I win in this way, I won't win by force. Namikaze Minato didn't feel humiliated, nor angry, but just incredible. If it was a battle, of course he would have shot directly. After all, ninja battles are all about unscrupulous means, and they will do everything they can. But the battle of speed is not the case. Especially since it didn't occur to him to think of Carl as an enemy. Don't you even think about how much older you are. Not to mention anything else, as far as seniority is concerned, it is more than enough to be your great-grandfather. If the old man really got up, it would be truly invincible to compare the old man with you like he did when he fought Tobirama back then. Compared with a little guy who is more than 10 years old, he is still so serious. This kind of old man can't do it, and he can't afford to lose this person. Quote. Carl scoffed. But, Namikaze Minato listened and wanted to say something but was interrupted by Carl directly. Okay, you don't need to say any more, just do it directly. Don't feel that old age is letting you down. Just a word, as long as you can get the old man out of the chair, no matter whether you stand up or stop lying on the chair, you will win. Quote. When Carl said this, his tone paused slightly, and then he said in a surprising way again. Don't say that the old man still bullies you at such a young age. If you can really do it, don't even listen to you explain the truth, even if you let I go. As soon as these words came out, Namikaze Minato's eyes lit up. Master Carl, are you sure? Namikaze Minato didn't speak anymore, but asked a question instead. Minato, look what you're talking about. Would you believe me if I told you that now I am even more hopeless than before? Mr. Jiraiya, what are you talking about? Lord Carl's reputation is unparalleled in the ninja world. Facing Namikaze Minato, all he has is his dedication as a teacher. Don't forget, who is the man standing in front of you? He is different from all the opponents you have faced before. Take good care of it, Konoha. No, the fate of the ghost is in your hands right now. Quote. He couldn't imagine how powerful this is for Carl to have such confidence. Before Carl could speak, Sarutobi Hiruzen suppressed the excitement in his heart and scolded Namikaze Minato angrily on the spot. Since the days of Sengoku, he said there has never been a time to cash out. Quote. Facing him, you don't care whether he is lying on his stomach or lying down, it is best to go all out. Quote. No matter why Master Carl did this, it was also an opportunity for him to take back his order and prevent the flames of war from sweeping through the ninja world. Minato, although Lord Carl has done you a lot, don't be careless, let alone feel that you are being underestimated. In fact, when he saw Carl getting up from the chair, he didn't mean anything, but his heart became more serious. Namikaze Minato smiled wryly. Jiraiya is not as complicated as Sarutobi Hiruzen thought. Minato, this is a great opportunity. But after the angry scolding, when Sarutobi Hiruzen brushed past Namikaze Minato, he left a sentence in his ear that only the other party could hear. How could I possibly feel slighted? Chapter 133 The old man is used to comparing strength with Hashirama and speed with Tobirama. Part 3 Please subscribe. It would be fine if he had never faced the Flying Thunder God technique, but Carl not only faced it, but also personally broke second Hokage's Flying Thunder God slash, so he should be very familiar with the speed of the Flying Thunder God. However, Carl still went his own way, not only lying on the chair without the intention of getting up, but even letting Tsunade and Uzumaki Kushina on his body continue to give benefits. In this regard, Namikaze Minato became more and more afraid. Minato, seriously. Jiraiya was surprised to see that Namikaze Minato was not joking. Don't look at how he reminded Namikaze Minato not to underestimate the enemy, but he is still very confident in Namikaze Minato's speed. Although the Third Ninja War was ended by Carl alone, it did not affect Namikaze Minato's reputation as the #1 speed in the ninja world and the Golden Flash. It's just that the fame, record, and status are not as high as in the original time and space. Mr. Jiraiya, of course it is true. You should be very clear, I am not arrogant, conceited, supercilious that kind of person. Master Carl let me go to this point, to be honest, I am really at a loss right now. Namikaze Minato nodded seriously. Then what to do? Jiraiya couldn't help but tense up. Things have developed to this point, what else can I do? Of course I did my best. And Mr. Jiraiya, you don't have to worry too much. This is not a life and death battle. Although I am carrying a heavy burden, even if I lose, I can only leave immediately and stop disturbing Mr. Carl's cleanliness. Quote. After Namikaze Minato finished speaking, he held the Flying Thunder God Kunai and walked to a position 20 meters away from Carl. Master Carl, can I do it? Namikaze Minato calmed down and fixed his eyes on Carl on the chair. Up to you. Carl's eyes were closed, even the eyelids lifted. Excuse me. Hearing this, Namikaze Minato raised his hand and threw out the Flying Thunder God Kunai. In an instant, the Flying Thunder God Kunai that came out of his hand had already flown to a position less than half a meter away from Carl's face. Flying Thunder God. After Tobirama, I really haven't seen it again. Quote. Carl sighed softly, then unhurriedly reached out to Flying Thunder God Kunai. However, just when his palm was about to touch Kunai, Namikaze Minato, which was 20 meters away, had disappeared out of thin air, like a golden flash that traveled through time and space at will, appearing on top of Kunai's head in an instant, with his right hand facing towards grabbing Carl's neck. Clang. Carl didn't get up, didn't even open his eyes, just waved a finger. When the index finger is drawn across the air, it triggers a strong airflow that blows away the oncoming bitterness. At the same time, his fingers also stopped on his head, and then tapped lightly. Humph. Namikaze Minato, together with the kunai he threw, almost flew out backwards in tandem. How is this possible? Seeing this scene, Jiraiya's eyes stared straight. Lying on a chair, with two people on their backs, without raising their eyes, they defuse Minato's attack with just one finger. Sarutobi Hiruzen is unbelievable, he has heard about Namikaze Minato's strength. Even he himself can't say he can beat Namikaze Minato. Really, a legend is always a legend. Will not change for any reason. Although Orochimaru was startled, he calmed down in an instant. Asking for flowers. Kushina, have you noticed? Tsunade on Carl's back looked directly at Uzumaki Kushina. I didn't feel Uncle Carl move at all. Uzumaki Kushina nodded with a look of surprise. Just now, she was thinking whether to condense chakra on the soles of her feet, lest Uncle Carl move too much. If she and Tsunade fall down, Uncle Carl will feel embarrassed. But until Namikaze Minato and Flying Thunder God Kunai were knocked into the air together, they didn't feel any shaking in the soles of their feet, no, not even vibrations. That feeling of walking on the ground, if she hadn't witnessed Namikaze Minato and Flying Thunder God Kunai being knocked into the air, she couldn't even help suspecting that Carl had never shot. 0.0. This kind of control. After hearing this, Tsunade didn't say a word, but his heart was full of turmoil. In such a situation that is not good for him, in the face of such super speed, the movement should be very large in an instant, but Carl's movements are not only small and steady, but it seems that after precise calculation, the control of strength and body control is simply amazing. Unbelievable. Even if ninjas who practice chakra are unreasonable, Carl obviously goes a step further. Defy common sense. Gold glitter. Can you go any faster? Don't worry, old age is not young, but the reaction is inversely proportional to age. Maybe you don't know, in the Sengoku era, the old man was used to comparing strength with Hashirama and speed with Tobirama, so you don't have to give in to the old man. You can completely regard this battle of speed as a life and death battle. Treat the old man as an enemy, with the determination to kill the old man, go out with all your strength. Carl retracted the finger he swung just now, and Namikaze Minato, who was knocked into the air slowly, said yes. Chapter 134 Flying Thunder God Slash. One finger is enough this time, please subscribe to the 4th update. What an astonishing speed of nerve reflexes. Namikaze Minato didn't speak, just opened his mouth wide and looked at Carl in astonishment. The attack just now, although it was just a trial and didn't go all out, how could Carl be serious? It's no wonder that Cloud Shinobi, who are so fast, and 3rd Raikage, lost so badly. It turned out that it wasn't that they didn't take advantage of their speed, but that they didn't have the slightest advantage in speed. Quote. Namikaze Minato finally understood why when 3rd Raikage and his son, who were second only to him in speed, were so vulnerable in the battle with Carl. Obviously with this extremely fast, 640, speed, he should have the absolute advantage in the battle. Even if you can't beat it, you can withdraw. However, whether it is or 3rd Raikage, when they face Carl, they are so proud of their speed that they can't be released at all. Before, he was a little suspicious. But after the wave of tentative attacks just now, he finally understood. It's not that 3rd Raikage didn't give full play to the advantage of speed in the battle, but that Carl is too fast. Makes the speed of and 3rd Raikage known as the blue flash useless. What are you waiting for? Golden flash, hesitation will lead to defeat. Carl slowly raised one eyelid, glanced at Namikaze Minato, and closed it again. Master Carl, I will do my best in the future. If there is any offense, please forgive me. Namikaze Minato took a deep breath, suppressed the chaotic thoughts in his heart, then swung his hands, and 10 Flying Thunder God Kunai shot towards different positions of Carl at the same time. Will he move to the Flying Thunder God Kunitsu? Minato's kunai throwing skills are no longer inferior to most Uchiha. As the flight trajectory of each kunai carefully calculated. Everyone present widened their eyes, staring intently at each Flying Thunder God kunai. Including Tsunade and Uzumaki Kushina who stood on Carl's back and didn't forget to step on his back at this time. They all know that Namikaze Minato will inevitably choose the coordinates of one of the kunai to jump in space next. Although there are not many kunai, they are not small, especially the angle at which Namikaze Minato throws kunai is extremely tricky. Although it is not possible to play the kunai throwing technique to the point where Uchiha Itachi opened Mangekyo Sharingan, he still has no pupils. The limit that a person who performs blood succession can achieve. After almost all the kunai came out, from Carl's point of view, they were almost blind spots. In addition to having 360-degree white eyes with no blind angles, otherwise, the eyes of normal people often only need to catch 1 or 2 Flying Thunder God kunai, and the other 8 Flying Thunder God kunai will enter the visual blind zone, and there is no way to see. In this case, with Namikaze Minato's ninja world's no. 1 speed, it is difficult to cope even with white eyes, let alone a person without white eyes. Call out. However, in the face of 10 Flying Thunder God kunai coming through the air, Carl did not raise his head as usual, and he didn't even open his eyes. When 10 Flying Thunder God kunai brushed past him, and some of them wanted to assassinate different parts of his body, he just snapped his fingers in the air. Boom. With his finger as the center, the air is like the surface of a lake with stones thrown into it, instantly rippling with circles of changes visible to the naked eye. The Kun Wu Fang Buddha who was going to stab him all bounced away as if they were pushed away by the repulsive force. Flying Thunder God Slash. Namikaze Minato has been standing still since the kunai was thrown. But at the moment when kunai was about to be bounced away, he was still standing there, but another golden flash appeared beside Carl out of thin air, holding kunai in his hand, like a laser piercing through the void, piercing fiercely shoulder. Clang. Nadime's Flying Thunder God Slash doesn't work. But this time, forget it. The last time Carl faced Senju Tobirama's Flying Thunder God Slash, it took Carl 2 fingers to pinch it. Now what? He stood by Carl's side with a stunned expression, his eyes were dull, and he looked at the front of his kunai in front of him, forcibly suppressing the momentum of him, kunai, and Flying Thunder God Slash. Broken finger. Doesn't that mean that today's Iron Fist is stronger than the Iron Fist that we knew at its peak in the past? Flying Thunder God Slash is broken. He'd looked up Carl's terrifying feat of holding the Flying Thunder God Slash between 2 fingers. But that is also in the case of serious fighting. After Sarutobi Hiruzen, Jiraiya, Orochimaru and others saw the battle clearly, their eyes widened. Just a finger. Carl is lying on the chair, with Tsunade 3.0 and Uzumaki Kushina standing on his back, and eyes closed. One finger firmly pressed against the tip of Flying Thunder God kunai, forcing Namikaze Minato to stop in place. Let alone the category that humans can reach, this is simply beyond the category that humans can understand. Jiraiya, in particular, took a deep breath on the spot. Namikaze Minato was stunned as sparks surged out. A thought popped into Jiraiya's mind and made him shudder. Chapter 135. At the end of the crane, you just discovered that Iron Fist is better than at its peak. The fifth update asks for subscription. Jiraiya, did you think of something happy? His face is so ugly, tell me, let me be happy too. Just when Jiraiya was panicked by his conjecture, Orochimaru standing beside him suddenly said in a meaningful tone. You fellow, look how happy you are. Isn't Minato competing with you for the fourth generation? Now that Minato is deflated, why should he be so happy? Jiraiya suppressed the shocking thoughts in her heart, and said to Orochimaru angrily. Don't think of me with your nasty thoughts. Minato's strength is indeed very strong, maybe even I am not his opponent. But I really didn't want to see him as an opponent. I didn't have it before, and now, it won't be. Quote. Orochimaru smiled, then shook his head slightly. Fourth Hokage. Even the identity of Hokage candidate was not won by himself, but Sarutobi Hiruzen forced him to 15. But since he got it, with his personality, he would naturally not refuse, and he didn't mind taking the position of fourth Hokage. Of course, if he wants to regard Namikaze Minato as a rival and try his best to compete, he really doesn't have this idea at this stage. What do you mean by that? Jiraiya suddenly realized that she couldn't understand Orochimaru. Before, he was worried that Orochimaru and Namikaze Minato would completely break up because of the position of fourth Hokage. But looking at it now, Orochimaru's attitude towards Hokage's position is very intriguing. You said he didn't want to. That's not true, but you said he deliberately competed, and he never seemed to deliberately compete with Namikaze Minato. Even the position of Hokage candidate was imposed on Orochimaru by Sarutobi Hiruzen. You are really as dull as ever. Haven't you found out yet? Times have changed, Jiraiya. Orochimaru glanced at Jiraiya. What's the meaning? Jiraiya was confused. In the past, it was not Minato's turn to compete with me for the fourth generation, but whoever Mr. Sarutobi recognized was the fourth generation. As for now, it is me and Mr. Sarutobi who are fighting. Quote. Orochimaru ignored the slight change in Sarutobi Hiruzen's face, and said directly to Jiraiya. Speak human words. Jiraiya looked at Orochimaru, then at Sarutobi Hiruzen whose face changed suddenly. He seemed to understand something, but he didn't seem to understand. It seemed that there was a thin layer of paper, or a fig leaf, covering all of this, preventing him from seeing the side he least wanted to see for the time being. Don't understand. Your IQ at the tail of the crane is really astonishingly low as always. Quote. Orochimaru said, if you want to fight, just say so, don't turn the corner and scold me. A tic-tac-toe popped out of Jiraiya's forehead. Then I'll try to say it in a way that the tail of the crane can understand. Since the outbreak of the Third Ninja World War, the situation in Konoha has gradually changed. In other words, the situation in Hokage has changed. From the original teacher Sarutobi who approved, whoever is Hokage, to me and teacher Sarutobi competing for the position of Hokage. Quote. Orochimaru shook his head and laughed. Orochimaru, have you practiced ninjutsu too much and burned your brain out? Teacher Sarutobi is the third Hokage, so he still needs to compete with you for the position of Hokage. Jiraiya looked at Orochimaru strangely. Really, I've already said it so bluntly, you still don't understand. I really doubt whether you really don't understand, or don't want to understand, or deliberately pretend not to understand. Quote. As soon as Orochimaru said this, Jiraiya immediately looked unnatural. I'll just pretend you don't understand, Jiraiya. Mr. Sarutobi is Hokage, yes, but he is the third generation, not the fourth generation. If I win, I will be the fourth Hokage, otherwise Mr. Sarutobi won, and Minato will be the fourth generation. It's not that he doesn't know about Hokage's situation, but he doesn't want to let himself know. Conversely, Orochimaru is the fourth Hokage, but Sarutobi Hiruzen is not necessarily the third Hokage. At the end of the crane, you have only now discovered that Iron Fist is better than at its peak. To Jiraiya's surprise, Orochimaru said something that left him speechless again. The Hokage campaign, which was originally an upright campaign, has changed. Jiraiya didn't speak, just looked away. Jiraiya saw that although Orochimaru and Sarutobi Hiruzen were laughing and talking as before, they clearly sensed that there was an irreparable rift between master and apprentice. From the original Orochimaru and Namikaze Minato each worked hard to express themselves and contribute to Konoha. Whoever is taller in 040 will be recognized, and gradually evolved into a power struggle. After winning, Namikaze Minato is the fourth Hokage, but Sarutobi Hiruzen is also the third Hokage. Compared to this, Orochimaru, don't you think there is one thing that is more frightening to think about? Now, he was hit by the big snake. He looked at Jiraiya who looked more and more unnatural with a half smile. Are you referring to Lord Karl being stronger than we understand, the peak of the Sengoku era? Thinking and terrified, Namikaze Minato has unknowingly become a pawn that Sarutobi Hiruzen launched to compete with Orochimaru. Not wanting to see his friends and teachers getting into trouble, he hastily changed the subject. I don't quite understand what you're saying. I said so, you should understand. Chapter 136. The old man forgot to say, if he is decisive, he will give it for nothing. Subscribe to Chapter 6. Orochimaru, you know that too. Was it just now? After Jiraiya was taken aback, he immediately thought that Orochimaru might be the same as himself. After seeing Karl stop flying Thunder God Slash with one finger, he compared Namikaze Minato and Senju Tobirama, so he realized the fact that Tekken might be better than at its peak. After all, it's no secret that Namikaze Minato's Flying Thunder God technique has been improved to be faster than second Hokage's Flying Thunder God. At least in Konoha, not only he knows, but Orochimaru also knows. Please don't think of me as dull like you, will you? As early as in the Land of Water, I have already noticed that Master Carl is stronger than what we thought. He was at his peak. Orochimaru said to Jiraiya, and then turned his head to watch with great interest that his body tensed up and stood in front of Carl with a stiff expression, as if he hadn't recovered from the impact of Flying Thunder God / being blocked by Carl's finger. In fact, it is true. At this time, Namikaze Minato's heart seemed to be full of ups and downs, and there was no way to calm down. With a delicate mind and strong insight, even if he is not as lucky as Orochimaru who has witnessed Carl's shots several times, but only the Flying Thunder God / was broken. Combined with the information he obtained before, he has already analyzed many information. And any piece of this information shocked him. When a lot of information gathered together and was discovered by him at once, he, the fastest man in the ninja world, was stunned in place. It only took one finger to break my Flying Thunder God / so doesn't that mean Lord Carl is stronger than he was when he faced Nadim in the past? How can that be? No matter how strong his physique is, but his age is there after all, at most he can only resist the erosion of the years, but it is impossible to ignore the erosion of the years. The more Namikaze Minato thought about it, the more he couldn't believe it, and the more he thought about it, the more horrified he became. Even if there is such a magical product as chakra in the ninja world, such a situation as Carl is unique. At least throughout the history of the ninja world, he has never seen a ninja who is completely immune to the erosion of time like Carl, who has reached the age of 70, but his strength still has not regressed in the slightest, but can still improve. Uchiha Madara can't do this kind of thing, Senju Hashirama can't do it, and even the Six Paths brothers can't do it. Golden Flash, you seem to be having a hard time accepting it. But it's too old to blame. Just now I only told you that if you hesitate, you will lose, but if you forgot to tell you, if you are decisive, you will give it in vain. Although Carl didn't open his eyes to look at Namikaze Minato, but under the perception of observation haki, he took Namikaze Minato's ups and downs like waves in his heart. Go back. It's almost time for the old man's nap time. After finishing speaking, he held Flying Thunder God's sharp finger and pressed lightly. Namikaze Minato, who was terrified and absent-minded, suddenly felt a flash flood erupting, and a huge force like a raging sea swept from Flying Thunder God Kunai, making it difficult for him to resist, and he was directly knocked out. Although he was not injured, he fell to the ground tens of meters away in embarrassment. Minato, are you okay? Seeing this, Jiraiya quickly stepped forward to help Namikaze Minato who fell to the ground. He was a little worried at first when he saw that Namikaze Minato simply fell and was not injured, so he felt relieved. Sure enough, the rumors are true. For ninjas in the ninja era, Tekken has always had a high tolerance. In other words, it's not the ninjas of the Ninja Village era, but the little ghosts of the Ninja Village era. Although he doesn't want to admit it, Jiraiya also knows that whether it is Namikaze Minato or himself, in the eyes of Tekken, they may be a group of little devils who haven't grown up yet. This is also the case, even though Namikaze Minato uttered wild words before, and even initiated a gambling fight, Carl still did not intend to be cruel. Just a small setback to Namikaze Minato's spirit. Quote. Teacher Jiraiya, I'm fine. Namikaze Minato stood up, shook his head, but sighed heavily in his heart. His body is fine, but there is something in his heart. Flying Thunder God, who thought he was faster than second Hokage, would not be able to hurt Iron Fist, or cause too much trouble to Iron Fist, but at least he would not be able to cast Flying Thunder God / like second Hokage did back then. Caught by the opponent's two fingers. But the cruelty of reality taught him a lesson directly. Carl did not clamp his Flying Thunder God / with 2 fingers, but stopped his Flying Thunder God / with 1 finger. This kind of blow, this way of defeat, is simply worse than that of Wang Haohao, Senju Tobarama back then. If not, forget it. I think you should have found out too. Although you are faster than Nadim, Lord Carl is stronger than ever. In this case, he can hold your Flying Thunder God / with 1 finger, let alone get a little serious. Quote. Jiraiya hesitated for a moment, but still persuaded Namikaze Minato to give up the bet. Not to mention that losing to Carl is not a shame, but after losing, the price Namikaze Minato has to pay is nothing more than leaving immediately. It's not an unbearably huge price to pay. Chapter 137 You are facing the most powerful man in the ninja world. Part 1 Please subscribe. That's right, Minato. Don't put too much psychological burden on yourself. As Jiraiya said, sometimes giving up at the right time is not a bad thing. After all, what you are facing is not someone else, but the most powerful man in the ninja world. If you lose to the hero who dominates the 2 worlds, you won't be wronged, you deserve it. Quote. Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed in his heart, although he felt that it was a pity that Namikaze Minato lost, but he also knew that it was not a crime of war. After all, apart from Orochimaru who already knew the truth of the matter, who would have thought that Carl's body would be so enchanting that not only could his strength not be restricted by age in his 70s, but he would even grow better, surpassing the peak of the Sengoku era. Phew. Teacher Jiraiya, Master 3rd generation, don't worry about me, I'm fine. Although I had never thought of this kind of input before, I didn't find it too difficult to accept. As you say, I'm facing Lord Carl. Namikaze Minato forced a smile, and when Jiraiya and Sarutobi Hiruzen thought they were going to admit defeat and leave 257, he took a few steps forward and said to Carl seriously. Master Carl, Minato appreciates your kindness. But, I still want to try again. It's not that I don't want to accept defeat, nor that I can't afford to lose, but for the peace of Ninja World and Konoha, I must do everything. He stared at Carl with burning eyes, as if he had stood up again from the shock of losing just now. You have to stick to it, that's your business. But it can't be that if you don't admit defeat or give up, the old man will keep playing with you, right? If you continue to play with you, it doesn't matter if you are old, but little Tsunade and the others probably have their feet weak. Carl said angrily, then raised a finger. This is the last time. If you lose, get out. If the old man loses, let him go. Carl's words were full of indisputable taste. Apparently, he was not negotiating with Namikaze Minato, but giving an ultimatum. Thank you, Master Carl. Minato is not a person who does not know how to advance and retreat, and who does not know what is good or bad. Even if Master Carl doesn't say it, this is the last time. Quote. Namikaze Minato didn't feel dissatisfied with this. After all, Carl has kept his hand several times, especially the 2 shots he made just now. Carl just simply caught his attack and didn't even fight back. The little bit of jealousy because of Uzumaki Kushina before has already dissipated. He is not a narrow-minded person, and it will be obvious from this that Carl has no interest in Uzumaki Kushina, but Uzumaki Kushina has always been interesting to Carl. Moreover, before Carl came out, Sui Kushina had already rejected him. Unless his surname is Uchiha, he really can't find any reason to blame Carl. Then what are you waiting for? Carl reached out and waved at Namikaze Minato. Ninja Shuriken Shadow Clone Technique. Namikaze Minato threw out a handful of Flying Thunder God Kunai with his left hand, and at the same time formed a mudra with his right hand. Flying Thunder God Kunai just flew halfway, and it was already divided into 2, 2 into 4, and 4 into 8. Finally, it was divided into 32 shurikens. Jiraiya and the others on the side looked around. BFFH, Namikaze Minato seemed to throw out an overwhelming Flying Thunder God net like a rainstorm of pear blossoms. Multiple Shadow Clone Technique. At the same time, Namikaze Minato separated 31 Shadow Clone in one breath, and then disappeared together in place. He is neither a Jinchuriki, nor a Vortex, nor a Senju, just an ordinary person with such an amount of chakra. 32 Flying Thunder God Kunai, with 32 Flying Thunder God attacks. Even ordinary shadows are dead if they can't even react. Orochimaru and others were amazed when they saw Namikaze Minato split 31 Shadow Clone. Shadow Clone is not a clone technique, but an entity clone. Isn't it the sage body of the Jinchuriki and Uzumaki clan? The ninja world is so big, even if it can move, there are dozens of multiple Shadow Clone. Even Cage-level experts, no, ordinary Jinchuriki would not do this. Cage-level powerhouses can't do it, and ordinary Jinchuriki are unwilling to do that. Divide the chakra into 32 equally, how can Jinchuriki take advantage of the huge chakra itself? Only Uzumaki Sage Body, together with Jinchuriki, can split out a large number of Shadow Clone and ensure that each Shadow Clone has a strong enough combat power. As for Namikaze Minato, since it is neither Jinchuriki nor Sage Body, it is able to separate 31 Shadow Clone, which is just amazing. It's a second. That's right, even if other people have more chakra than Minato, it's useless to divide dozens of Shadow Clone, it's just a waste of chakra. But Minato is different. He has the Flying Thunder God technique, which is to kill the enemy with lightning and flint at an extremely fast speed. As long as the amount of Shadow Clone chakra allocated is enough to cast Flying Thunder God once, that's enough. Without exception, those who can stand here are all Cage level, or even Cage level startups. When Sarutobi Hiruzen, Jiraiya and others saw Namikaze Minato cast Shuriken Shadow Clone technique and multiple Shadow Clone technique, they understood Namikaze Minato's intention. Extreme speed, coupled with high-frequency attacks, is extremely terrifying even in actual combat. Not to mention that now Namikaze Minato is not competing with Carl, but is competing with speed. Chapter 138. You are faster than Tobirama, but the old man is stronger than before. Part 2. Please subscribe. Flying Thunder God in the face of 32 Minatos at the same time in an instant, even if the Iron Fist can catch it unscathed, you must leave that chair. Jiraiya and Sarutobi Hiruzen glanced at each other, and they both saw expectations and excitement in each other's eyes. Apparently, none of them expected that Namikaze Minato would have such a hand. Speed plus frequency. Although Namikaze Minato has just created Shadow Clone, Carl has already sensed his next move. However, facing the upcoming Flying Thunder God 32 ensembles, he didn't even raise his hand. Just put a finger up at Namikaze Minato, and put it back directly. What does he want to do? Namikaze Minato noticed Carl's movement and frowned slightly. But the arrow is on the string, and I have to launch it. At this time, the more he hesitated, the more time he gave Carl to prepare and think, the lower his chances of winning. It was also like this, even though Carl's abnormal behavior made him feel very strange, even faintly uneasy, but the movements on his body did not slow down in the slightest. At the moment when the 31 Shadow Clones appeared, he and the Shadow Clones had disappeared in place at the same time. Onlookers Tsunade, Uzumaki Kushina and others saw that with the disappearance of Namikaze Minato and Shadow Clone, only 32 golden flashes flashed through their eyes, and nothing else could be seen. Whether it's Orochimaru, or Sarutobi Hiruzen, or Jiraiya, they all have one thing in mind. If it is yourself, it can only be temporarily. Flying Thunder God technique is so pervert. As long as you can learn it and use it proficiently, even if you only know one move of Flying Thunder God, you can still eat it all over the world with one move. Even the cage-level powerhouses are in danger, and if they are not careful, they will be killed by ultimate speed. This is why in the Sengoku era, Senju Tobirama and Uchiha Izuna have always been equally divided, and no one can do anything to the other. But with the advent of the Flying Thunder God technique, this Uchiha genius who has opened Mangekyo Sharingan and has no weaknesses and no shortcomings is the reason for the immediate defeat. It's faster than Tobirama, but it's a pity that the old man is stronger than before. Others couldn't react, but Carl clearly sensed Namikaze Minato's next move and next attack. When Namikaze Minato disappeared, no, it should be said that the moment before Namikaze Minato cast Flying Thunder God technique, the hair on the back of Carl's head suddenly elongated. Each strand of hair stretched to several meters long in an instant, and then twisted into 32 whips. In the blink of an eye, like a boa constrictor, they fluttered and danced in the midair. Sheila. When each whip made of many hairs rolls in the void, whether it is the two girls of Tsunade on the back or the three of Jiraiya on the side, they can clearly see that these whips are attacking the air. But when these whips rolled and twisted against the air, 32 Namikaze Minatos appeared out of thin air without any other control except the air. 32 Namikaze Minato's Flying Thunder God technique appeared, which happened to be where Carl's hair attacked. In the eyes of Tsunade and others watching, there was even an illusion that Namikaze Minato flew towards Carl's hair on purpose. What's even more frightening is that when Namikaze Minato jumped into the space and appeared in front of Carl's hair, it happened to be the time when the hair was gathered and entangled, and every Namikaze Minato was wiped out. He entangled the wrist-holding Flying Thunder God kunai passionately. How is this possible? Tsunade glanced at the 32-bound Namikaze Minato and was amazed. He thought Namikaze Minato would fail miserably, but he didn't expect it to be such a terrible defeat. It's as if Minato himself took the initiative to contribute to master Carl's attack. No wonder Carl Uncle's observation Haki made the Uchiha of the Sengoku era. No, countless ninja families helpless for a time. Ask for flowers. Among them, she watched the battle between Carl and Senju Hashirama many times. Can compete with Carl Uncle. Even Orochimaru, who had already guessed that Namikaze Minato would be defeated, shuddered when he saw this scene. In front of Carl, the golden flash is like being in front of a huge black hole. No matter how fast the golden flash flies and how many there is only one final result, which is to be sucked into and swallowed by the black hole, leaving nothing behind. Every time she saw Carl make a shot, the more she knew about Carl, the more she felt how amazing her grandfather was back then. Looking at the two eras, apart from Uchiha Madara, only my grandfather has this ability, and compared to Uchiha Madara, my grandfather seems to be even better. Sarutobi Hiruzen watched with horror. Such a fast speed, coupled with such a quantity, is actually the result. When Grandpa fought Carl Uncle, how did he persist for several days before he lost? Jiraiya watched 32 Namikaze Minato being bound by the whip-like hair around his wrist at the same time, restrained on the ground and midair, and couldn't help but exclaimed. Since returning to Konoha, she has read all the records about Carl in the Senju tribe. It can be done to such an extent. Witnessing Namikaze Minato's 3 shots, he didn't know that the number 1 speed in the ninja world. Golden Flash was under Carl's control from the beginning to the end. Chapter 139. The second paragraph of Flying Thunder God is broken. Part 3 asks for subscription. According to the records of the Senju tribe, Carl and Senju Hashirama have fought against each other no less than 50 times. At the beginning, there was a tie situation. But after the 10th time, the battles between Senju Hashirama and Carl ended in defeat. Although Senju Hashirama's strength is also constantly improving, and the movement and momentum caused by the battle between the two are becoming more and more terrifying, but it is obvious that Carl's progress is faster than Senju Hashirama's. After 10 battles, not only did the two fight against each other, there was no draw again, and even the time for Senju Hashirama's defeat continued to shorten. Until the last battle, which is also the last battle before Carl retired in the records of 1,000 nations. Senju Hashirama changed his past and fought Carl for 3 days and 3 nights. The length of the fierce battle has never been longer. But unfortunately, God of Ninja lost in the end. Tsunade, who has seen the records of this battle, knows how badly his grandfather lost at that time. When Senju Tobirama used Flying Thunder God to bring him back to the tribe, most of his bones were broken, and chakra was almost exhausted. If it wasn't for Sage Body, it would have been Uchiha Madara who suffered such an injury and wouldn't even have the chance to be rescued on the spot, let alone brought back to the family for treatment. Witnessing Namikaze Minato's bright moments and witnessing Namikaze Minato's miserable defeat, Tsunade was even more amazed at the greatness of his grandfather Senju Hashirama. It's really hard to imagine that the grandfather who was a little silly in his memory is actually so powerful. To be able to compete with Carl Uncle to this point. Especially after witnessing how terribly fast Namikaze Minato lost in front of Carl, this feeling was even stronger. No matter how many times I've seen it, every time I see him make a move, it's still so shocking. Orochimaru took a deep breath. Just now he tried to put himself in Carl's position, not to mention lying on the chair directly, even if he knew what the next wave of Namikaze Minato was going to do, he was even prepared. But there is only one result. Death is unlikely, but fiasco is inevitable. It's not that he has no talent, and poor strength, but that the Flying Thunder God technique developed by Senju Tobirama is really too powerful. Especially this trick Flying Thunder God technique seems to be tailor-made for Namikaze Minato. Golden Flash, you lose. After Carl finished speaking, the hair wrapped around Namikaze Minato and 31 shadow clone curled slightly. With a bang, dozens of shadow clones exploded into a cloud of white mist instantly. Wait, no. Almost at the moment when Namikaze Minato's shadow clone exploded into white mist, the pupils of Jiraiya, Sarutobi Hiruzen, and Orochimaru constricted suddenly, as if they had noticed something. 32 Namikaze Minato, 1 is the main body, and 31 shadow clone. But now, all Namikaze Minato has turned into a white mist, which means that all the captured ones are shadow clone, and none of them are entities. Minato, you actually tricked us with 32 shadow clone. At the moment when the three masters and apprentices realized something was wrong, the golden flash of the sun rose suddenly flashed out from behind Carl. Flying Thunder God Part 2. Namikaze Minato had a cold expression on his face, holding a Rasengan, and smashing it condescendingly at Carl's neck. No way, he doesn't want to hit his head either. It is true that Carl's back is completely occupied by Tsunade and Uzumaki Kushina's jade feet. Even if he wanted to attack, he could only attack the neck and head. If it was someone from the past, he would not attack the head, but the opponent is Carl, but he has no worries. After all, he had heard about Carl's strong physique. Not to mention the Rasengan of A-level ninjutsu, even if the tailed beast bomb of S-level esoteric art hits Carl head-on, this man can catch it unscathed. It was also true that, in his opinion, it made no difference whether it was hitting Carl on the head or hitting Carl on the neck. The key is not to be able to hurt Carl, but to be faster than the opponent and be able to hit the opponent. Successful. Namikaze Minato breathed a sigh of relief as he saw Rasengan go through Carl's tufts of hair and hit the back of his head straight. Although it was just a battle of speed, not a life and death struggle, for him, the pressure he endured just now for the 3 shots was simply the worst in his life. Even if all the battles experienced in the past add up, the pressure is not as good as the 3 shots just now. Golden Flash, what makes you think you can beat the old man? However, just when Namikaze Minato thought that the battle was settled and he could win the 3rd game, Carl's laughter suddenly reached his ears. Faster than the sound was a tuft of Carl's black hair twisted into fingers and shot out like lightning. Just like when it broke the Flying Thunder God Slash before, the finger-shaped hair firmly pressed against Namikaze Minato's Rasengan, making it impossible for this destructive chakra sphere to get closer. It's just that the Flying Thunder God Slash was broken with fingers before, but this time it's with a tuft of hair. Flying Thunder God Second 1.5 segment, also broken. The blood on Namikaze Minato's face disappeared in an instant, and he who was full of confidence was suddenly hit hard. This is already the limit he can achieve so far. 32 shadow clones cast Flying Thunder God at the same time, and the main body seized the opportunity to cast it, using one of the shadow clones as the coordinates, and cast the second stage of Flying Thunder God. In the extremely chaotic and dazzling battle situation, Carl not only saw through all his methods, but also defeated all his attacks without hurting him at all. The insurmountable gap between them made him, who was confident, tenacious, and determined, feel slumped for a while. Chapter 140 Today's Ninjas Don't Know How Strong Tobirama is Part 4. Please subscribe. No big deal. Maybe that Tobirama guy didn't record the whole fight I had with him. So this is what gives you the illusion that the second paragraph of Flying Thunder God can win the old man. Quote. Carl said calmly, while changing the extended hair back to normal length. Lord Carl, may I ask you a question? I've seen that fight between you and Nadaime, didn't it end after a Flying Thunder God Slash between you two? Jiraiya saw that the battle had been decided, and Namikaze Minato was a little bit lost, but he didn't show any signs of getting angry or couldn't afford to lose, so he felt relieved. He was afraid that Namikaze Minato couldn't afford to lose. Although it is said that ninjas do not pay attention to credibility, do whatever they can, and do nothing for the sake of victory, but that is victory. Now it's not a life and death battle between ninjas, it's just a gambling fight. Witnessing Namikaze Minato's 3 shots with his own eyes, Carl was so majestic to break Namikaze Minato's attack with only 15, he didn't mean to take the opportunity to hit hard. Aside from the matter of Tsunade, he had to sigh that the legendary hero is indeed generous and broad-minded. Even if Namikaze Minato had spoken badly before, it was only to the point. If at this time, Namikaze Minato behaved recklessly and refused to admit defeat, then he also felt that his disciple was a bit unreasonable. Fortunately, the scene he was worried about did not happen. Not one hit Flying Thunder God Slash right, but hundreds of hits right. Carl said without looking up. Hundreds of times. When Orochimaru and others heard it, they couldn't help but think of Namikaze Minato's Flying Thunder God 32 ensemble just now, and then listen to Carl's hundreds of hits Flying Thunder God Slash, and the sense of picture suddenly came. I thought I was the first to use this trick. Namikaze Minato smiles a little forcedly. Thinking about what? So, the current ninjas don't know how strong Tobirama is. The old man admits that among the contemporary ninjas, the most outstanding person is your golden glitter, but don't overestimate yourself and underestimate Senju Tobirama. Your technique was developed by him. Although it cannot be said that the creator of the technique must be stronger than the successor, but you also know the talent of Senju Tobirama. A man who is either developing forbidden technique, or on the road to developing forbidden technique. It is not too much to say that he does one forbidden technique a day. Do you think that a man with such outstanding talent has even developed the second part of Flying Thunder God, so he still doesn't know how to use it? Carl scoffed, then shook his head. Namikaze Minato is excellent, there is no doubt about it. But compared with Senju Tobirama, it is simply incomparable. Not only the gap between developers and successors, but also the gap in strength, talent, etc. If we say that Senju Tobirama is a master chakra master who is all round and has no dead ends, then Namikaze Minato is a master chakra master. This, Namikaze Minato froze. For example, Flying Thunder God technique created Namikaze Minato. Afterwards, like the blonde boy, he ended up with Flying Thunder God second verse and multiple shadow clone, and he slapped me hundreds of Flying Thunder God slashes in one instant. Master Carl, what happened to the battle back then? Carl raised his eyelids slightly, and glanced at Namikaze Minato with a dazed expression on his face. For example, the art of rounding made Kato Dan. Hearing this, Jiraiya admired second Hokage's talent even more. These are just ninjas that are well known to the world, and there are more famous people who are not as famous as these, and they all inherited the legacy of Senju Tobirama. Any secret, any forbidden technique, handed down and learned by others, can create a cage-level strong man. There are more kept in Konoha's forbidden technique library. It's not that no one can learn it, but that they can't learn it. After hitting hard and killing Uchiha Izuna, he didn't put much thought into Flying Thunder God, but moved to other forbidden technique developers, but even so, he only spent a little time on Flying Thunder God. It can be used no less than you. However, even so, this is only a small part of Senju Tobirama forbidden technique, esoteric technique. When mentioning Senju Tobirama, Carl's tone was less casual and indifferent, and more serious and emotional. Even if Tobirama is not like you, he has been putting all his energy into Flying Thunder God technique for more than 10 years, but sometimes talent is really a kind of unreasonable thing. It is better than all efforts. He has never practiced Konoha forbidden technique, nor has he ever entered the library of Konoha forbidden technique. His understanding of second Hokage's talents often only exists in part of Senju Tobirama's legacy from the past. Only those who have practiced and inherited Senju Tobirama's ninjutsu are those who have entered Konoha forbidden technique library like Orochimaru, Tsunade, Danzo, Sarutobi Hiruzen, can feel the talent of Senju Tobirama from the bottom of their hearts. Horror 507. For Senju Tobirama, Flying Thunder God is strong, but he was developed to deal with Uchiha's Mangekyo Sharingan, and nothing more. At that time, in addition to developing the Flying Thunder God technique, he also developed the original Shadow Clone technique into multiple Shadow Clone techniques. For example, Impure World Reincarnation created Orochimaru, and later Yakushi Kabuto. Chapter 141 Master Carl, Minato interrupted. The fifth update asks for subscription. Hundreds of Flying Thunder God slash. And is it still an instant? Nadime's chakra volume is really scary, and Shodai can beat him in this respect. I used Namikaze Minato's instant 32 Flying Thunder God slash as a reference, and now I heard Senju Tobirama's Flying Thunder God slash 100 times. Even if I have already mastered a lot of forbidden techniques, Cage dominates the roost with tenacious self-protection ability. Even Orochimaru at level felt his scalp tingling. Not to mention that the life-saving ability is far inferior to Orochimaru's Jiraiya and Sarutobi Hiruzen. When they heard Flying Thunder God slash hundreds of times, not only their faces were pale, their bodies trembled slightly, but even their backs were dripping with cold sweat, which directly soaked their clothes. 32 Flying Thunder God slashes are enough to instantly defeat, and even instantly kill almost any cage-level powerhouse. Hundreds of unreasonable Flying Thunder God slashes like Senju Tobirama are even more terrifying. I remember my grandpa said that regardless of strength, in terms of talent, no one in the ninja world can surpass the second grandpa. He can't, and neither can Uchiha Madara. Tsunade sighed. Before, she hadn't felt too strongly about what Senju Hashirama said. But now, she deeply feels Senju Tobirama's talent. Hashirama is right. To be honest, whether it is Hashirama or Tobirama, they are actually just inheriting the legacy of their ancestors. Wood style, sage body, Sharingan, all are things that come from the blood. Their strength lies in bringing their own bloodlines to the ultimate level, but if they change to other bloodlines, then the god of ninja and Shira of the ninja world have nothing to do with them. But Tobirama is different. With his talent, no matter whether he is from the Senju clan or not, he is still the second Hokage, the number one speed in the ninja world, and the real ninjutsu professor. Because Tobirama is not strong in blood, but strong here. Carl sighed and pointed to his head. He sort of understood that the 5 Kages of the ninja village era, especially the third generation variety, were extremely fond of taking away the names that belonged to the previous 5 Kages, regardless of whether they deserved it or not, and put it on themselves first. This is the third Raikage over at Cloud Shinobi. Sunagaku's third Kazekage is like this. Iwagaku's third Tsuchikage might as well give way. Of course, the most outrageous thing is Sarutobi Hiruzen in front of him. Konohagaku's strongest Hokage ever, Ninjutsu Professor, Ninjao. The 3 titles hanging above Sarutobi Hiruzen's head, the first belongs to first Hokage, the second belongs to second Hokage, and the third has nothing to do with Hokage, but the loss is related to Sarutobi Sasuke, Sarutobi Hiruzen's biological father. The name of Shinobi refers to Sarutobi Sasuke. But the names of master and father were all taken away by Sarutobi Hiruzen at once. When Carl mentioned the ninjutsu professor, everyone looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen vaguely. If someone else said this, even if Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't become angry on the surface, he would definitely be angry in his heart. But it was Carl who said this, and the person who compared it was Senju Tobirama, one of his teachers. Sarutobi Hiruzen could only turn his head slightly, as if he didn't hear it. He couldn't afford to offend the two of them, let alone compare them. Hundreds of Flying Thunder God slashes. After listening to Carl's words, Namikaze Minato sighed deeply, putting away all the loss, depression, and unwillingness in his heart. He is also practicing Flying Thunder God technique, so he naturally knows what Flying Thunder God slash means hundreds of times. It was also like this, but he felt a lot better after the fiasco. Second Hokage, who was better than himself, lost so badly, let alone him. That being the case, there is nothing to lose. Compared to before, I am afraid that Namikaze Minato and Orochimaru will break up because of the position of Hokage. He was even more afraid that Namikaze Minato would break up with Carl because of jealousy. As soon as Namikaze Minato stepped forward, Carl said to Jiraiya, Orochimaru and Sarutobi Hiruzen who were standing by. As for the matter of Uzumaki Kushina, he had already left it behind. He pursued Uzumaki Kushina for 10 years, and Uzumaki Kushina rejected him for 10 years, which was their mutual power. Master Carl, thank you for being merciful to me 3 times just now. Minato disturbed your peace. Who? Okay. He Namikaze Minato can pursue Uzumaki Kushina, can't stop Uzumaki Kushina from liking someone else. When it reaches the level of second Hokage, no matter how lost it is, it will never be too late. Seeing that Namikaze Minato walks very freely, neither indignant nor entangled, showing the free and easy of Golden Flash, Jiraiya is finally completely relieved. As it is now, in his opinion, it is already the best result. Through the confrontation just now, he has cleared his thoughts and calmed down his emotions. He does not say that he has let go of this, nor has he completely given up thinking about Uzumaki Kushina, but he has no negative emotions towards Carl. All he wanted was to thank Carl for showing mercy to him 3 times. One has the right to chase, and the other has the right to refuse. But in turn, what Uzumaki Kushina does is also her power. 3 fights, 3 failures, but Carl didn't play hard, and Namikaze Minato was not injured. Don't you want to bet against the old man like the blonde boy? Are you still leaving? Namikaze Minato let go of the Rasengan in his hand, walked up to Carl and bowed sincerely, then turned and left frankly. Chapter 142 You destroy the old man's nap just because of this. I never do things that bring shame upon myself. Orochimaru said bluntly, fighting Iron Fist. This is so hard to think about to do it. Master Carl, it's better not to make such a joke. Jiraiya stiffened, holding up her hands in surrender. Although he still held Sage Mode, after witnessing Namikaze Minato's attack, he already understood that even with Sage Mode activated and 2 great Toad Sages helping him, he still couldn't beat his disciple. At most, he could rely on the super perception ability of Sage Mode and the help of the 2 immortals during the battle to leave alive. Since you don't want to fight with the old man, what are you doing here? Is it okay to wait for the old man to keep you for dinner? Carl grumbled. That's right, Lord Carl. In fact, apart from telling you about the Four Shadows Alliance, we came here this time to ask you to teach you one more thing. Quote. Although something like Namikaze Minato happened halfway, Sarutobi Hiruzen did not forget the reason for coming here this time. The mastermind behind the scenes. 873 Not only did Sarutobi Hiruzen ask, but Carl said firmly. Yes, we all believe that Lu Ju's analysis is correct. Behind the 4 shadows, there must be a behind-the-scenes black hand, and it is the existence of this behind-the-scenes black hand that contributed to this alliance. But what makes us puzzled is what kind of mastermind behind the scenes can give Sighing such confidence. You know, this is a bet on the lives of tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands, of Jonin Village. If it wasn't for the mastermind behind the scenes who could give them unprecedented confidence, no matter how high the prestige of Sighing in Ninja Village, this kind of death would be prevented by all means. 17. Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded. However, judging from the information we have so far, apart from Kurigakure, the 4 great ninja villages have huge opposition voices. Sand Shinobi, Rock Shinobi, and Cloud Shinobi do not have much opposition voices. In other words, among the 4 major ninja villages, there are at least 3 BFEC ninja villages where most people support this battlefield, and they even think that this war can be won. Quote. Having said that, Orochimaru frowned. To make Sighing feel that he has such courage, he really can't think of who was behind this scene and how he did it. After all, the fierce power of Iron Fist has been vividly demonstrated to everyone in the Ninja Village era in the 4 previous wars. This is a monster that has been invincible for 2 consecutive eras. Is this what you're ruining the old man's nap for? Compared to Orochimaru and the others, Carl showed a lack of interest. Obviously, he wasn't very interested in what was going on behind the scenes. Or, he knew something. Carl uncle, if you know, tell them. In this way, we can send them off early and rest early. And, I want to know too. Seeing Jiraiya, Orochimaru, and Sarutobi Hiruzen secretly looking at her for help, Tsunade sighed inwardly, and then offered to help. After all, it is the Senju family who have devoted countless efforts to it, and even she herself has paid a lot of Konoha. It is impossible for her to say that she doesn't care about the mastermind behind Sighing. If you really think about it, Konoha is still the legacy left by Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobirama. Sarutobi Hiruzen is just escrow. Uncle Carl, don't hide it. This thing is just like the country of the vortex back then. If you don't say it, Senior Tsunade and I will feel uneasy. Uzumaki Kushina asked softly while stepping on Carl's back. Of course, he also knew about the country of the vortex. When Carl heard Uzumaki Kushina mention the country of the vortex, the impatient expression on his face also restrained a little. It was because of Uzumaki Mito who kept his promise that he would nod when Sarutobi Hiruzen came to ask him. The Uzumaki family of the Senju brothers is almost gone, and only Tsunade is left in the Senju family. The 6th update is completed. Please subscribe and support me, I am very grateful. I am very grateful. Originally thought that Uzumaki Mito would come to beg him, and even he had the idea of making a move, but what he didn't expect was that Uzumaki Mito would keep his promise to such an extent that the country of Uzumaki was destroyed. He didn't even come to beg he. Of course, this is also because she was taken care of by Uzumaki Mito before she became Jinchuriki, otherwise, it's hard to say. Although she was not born in Konoha, even Konoha refused to save her back then, which led to the direct destruction of Uzumaki Kingdom under the siege of several ninja villages. Is it the country of the vortex? One is Tsunade and the other is Uzumaki Kushina. After all, there are very few people who can get involved with him and move him. Otherwise, do you really think that the day Uzumaki Kushina was captured by Cloud Shinobi, he really happened to be there? That's why, even without Sarutobi Hiruzen's request that time, he decided to go out of the mountain once. Because of the relationship between the Senju brothers and Uzumaki Mito, he will take good care of the two girls, but this kind of care is secretly. There are only 2 Konoha left in Nuo-Da. The country of the Whirlpool was destroyed, and few of the Whirlpool clan came to beg him, and he did not make a move in the end. But it was precisely because the country of Uzumaki was besieged by several ninja villages before it perished. For the current alliance of 4 shadows, she felt as if she had seen the tragedy of Uzumaki country happen again. Compared to sighing, she is still on Konoha's side. Chapter 143. What do you think the old man is doing at Brother Senju's grave? Do Disco. The first update asks for subscription. Hey, I really owe you too. Carl can ignore requests from Sarutobi Hiruzen, Jiraiya, and even Orochimaru. But Tsunade and Uzumaki Kushina's gentle pleadings, I don't know if it's because they are getting older, or because the only people in the ninja world who can get involved with them are the 2 girls in front of them. He feels that his ears are really soft, not a lot. Thank you, Carl uncle. Tsunade and Uzumaki Kushina smiled at each other. During this period of getting along, they also saw many small details that they hadn't noticed before. For example, in the process of their growth, there has actually been a figure who has been watching them silently in the dark and protecting them without their knowledge. After Carl left the mountain, they also gradually understood who that figure was. Come down, and go change your clothes. Carl grumbled. Changing clothes. Where are we going? Tsunade and Uzumaki Kushina came down as promised, causing a wave of beautiful scenery, but also a little puzzled. Didn't you say you want to see who's behind the scenes? After the 2 women came down, Carl got up immediately, and then put on a short shirt under the service of Tsunade, who was quick-eyed and quick-handed. Look, when Carl said this, not only Tsunade and Orochimaru were stunned. Where should I go? After Tsunade came out of Carl's cabin, her appearance was not much different from before. He just put on a white short-sleeved t-shirt and a pair of shorts that only reached the thighs. Although it was covered up by a swimsuit or underwear, but after changing into white short sleeves, shorts, and a pair of sandals with fingerless fingers, the ability to get hot is even more terrifying than before. It can't be that our Konoha is behind the scenes, right? Compared with Tsunade, Uzumaki Kushina's dress is another style. Although his own capital is also extremely strong, Konoha is also one of the best, second only to the existence of Tsunade, but it is not as good as it is. The number 1 is always in the limelight. That's why she changed to another style of dressing, directly putting on a black fishnet outfit and a small vest. Gives a hot, youthful, but very seductive charm. You'll find out soon. Carl said something mysterious, and then started to walk in one direction of Hokage Rock. Soon, a few people came to an extremely inconspicuous, but in fact surrounded by many Anbu guards and a mountain protected by enchantment. Isn't this Hokage's cemetery? Orochimaru looked around, although he had never been there, but based on some information in his memory, he still judged that this was the cemetery where the Hokages of the past were buried. Because Senju Hashirama and Senju have sage body, wood style, and countless forbidden techniques in their minds, even if they die, the value of their bodies is many times higher than that of contemporary 5Kages. Whether it is out of selfishness or otherwise, the resting places of the 2 Hokages, first generation and second generation, are the most guarded in the entire Konoha. Anbu, who is in charge of guarding, gathers Konoha's strongest perception and is a ninja who scouts the family. There are the Inuzuka clan, the Yamanaka clan, the Aburame clan, and the Murmura clan who are good at enchantment. If you want to sneak into the tomb of the 2 generations of Hokage silently, even Uchiha Obito, who will have the time-space pupil technique Kamui and is familiar with everything about Konoha, will not be able to do it. The remains of Shodai and Nadaime are stored here. Sarutobi Hiruzen's pupils shrank slightly. Uncle Carl, do you suspect that the 2 Hokage masters are behind the scenes? Uzumaki Kushina speaks directly and speaks out what comes to mind. Although Jiraiya and Orochimaru didn't speak, they looked at Carl in surprise. Asking for flowers. What does coming here have anything to do with them being behind the scenes? As soon as Carl said this, Tsunade breathed a sigh of relief. When Uzumaki Kushina said that just now, she really had the idea that her 2 grandfathers would not be alive. The 2 of them were alive, and it would be impossible to destroy Konoha, but she felt that her 2 grandfathers were still very happy to fight Carl again. Since it has nothing to do with Grandpa and the others, what are you doing here? There seems to be nothing in there except Grandpa and the others. Tsunade Fox questioned. Although this is the Hokage cemetery, it doesn't mean that there are other things besides Hashirama and Tobirama. There is really nothing but Hashirama and the others. What do you think the old man is doing at Brother Senju's grave? Playing disco. All the secrets are buried in their brother's cemetery. Quote. Carl said as he walked towards the cemetery. Anything else? Orochimaru's snake eyes flickered in thought. How many secrets were left behind in that magnificent Sengoku era? He really didn't expect that in a Hokage cemetery, besides first generation and second Hokage, there are other unknown things. Even looking at his teacher Sarutobi Hiruzen's suspicious face, it is obvious that the other party does not know that there are things other than Hokage in the cemetery. What is it then? Jiraiya and others are preoccupied. But when they followed Carl into the burial ground of Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobirama, they found that although the inside was spacious, at a glance, except for the two coffins placed in the center and protected by the enchantment, there was no large coffin. There is nothing else in the cemetery. Master Carl, there seems to be nothing else here. After scanning the entire cemetery and finding nothing but the coffin, everyone couldn't help looking at Carl Maru. Chapter 144 Tobirama's Thoughts. Even if he dies, he will press Uchiha Madara's coffin. Part 2. Please subscribe. There are some things that cannot be seen with ordinary eyes. In the face of everyone's questioning eyes, Carl said something lightly, then walked to the coffin where Senju Tobirama's body was stored, and lifted Senju Tobirama's coffin with his hand. Why is there another coffin under second grandpa's coffin? Who is the person under the pressure of the second grandfather? Tsunade and others saw that there was another coffin being pressed under second Hokage's coffin. They were surprised at first, and then their expressions were a little strange. In the ninja world, no matter what family, ninja village, or country, it is not a good thing to be crushed with a coffin and a corpse after death. However, Senju Tobirama did such a thing, which made Tsunade and others feel incredible. This kind of thing seems to go against their impression of Senju Tobirama. Who else can be hated by that boy Tobirama, and who will be pressed on the other's coffin after death? Carl's expression is also a bit playful. When he came here for the first time, he couldn't help but laugh when he saw this scene. Tobirama really deserves to be the man who spent his whole life targeting Uchiha. Even after death, his burial site did not forget to target Uchiha. Hated to the bone by the second grandfather. Target even if you die. Could it be Uchiha? Sarutobi Hiruzen, Tsunade reacted first. They are all people who have been with Senju Tobirama. One is Senju Tobirama's disciple, and the other is Senju Tobirama's granddaughter. Under the guidance of precepts and deeds on weekdays, even if they didn't pay attention deliberately, they still remembered a lot of things under the influence of their ears and eyes. Senju Tobirama. In addition to the title of the ninja world's #1 speed and ninjutsu professor, there are also several famous areas that are only circulated in a small area of Konoha. Other than Hayden, it is a forbidden technique. Every day is either developing forbidden technique, or on the way to develop forbidden technique. And then, a man who spent his life targeting Uchiha. Of course, the first target is of course the two Uchiha brothers, especially the elder brother. Bingo. Carl nodded with a smile. As this kind of thing really done by my cold, handsome, face-saving and rational second grandfather. After being affirmed by Carl, Tsunade's expression was wonderful. Her cool second grandfather actually did something like pressing down on someone else's coffin, which really made her dumbfounded. For other people, Mr. Gongdai can't do it. But if it is related to Uchiha, then no matter how unimaginable, it may happen to Nadaime. While Sarutobi Hiruzen was dumbfounded, he was also shown off by Senju Tobirama's move. True second-generation sheep side. Uzumaki Kushina only felt that his Sanguanfangfo had been knocked apart. The man known as the most perfect man in the history of Hokage actually has this kind of coquettish operation. Orochimaru and Jiraiya were even more speechless. They are all dumbfounded. What a hatred. Never spare other people's coffins after death. Even if it's Uchiha, the second grandpa probably wouldn't target it. No, he's so concerned about it. Tsunade blushed, a little embarrassed. If I had known it earlier, I would have proposed to find someone behind the scenes. As a result, the mastermind behind the scenes has not been found yet, but the black history of my second grandfather, the classic show operation, has been dug out. Generally speaking, for Uchiha, that guy Tobirama will not be targeted after death, but at most he will be targeted during his lifetime. But the exception inside. Carl saw Suna 0.1 and Uzumaki Kushina couldn't believe it, so he told a secret. If you are very active, you will kill your father, mother, brother, sister, husband, and son. The Uchiha who opened his eyes is different, and also different from other ninja families. The Senju clan is united. Cannibalism almost never happened. Fighting is killing, even children of a few years old, or even babies in their arms. Grandpa's younger brother. This is also the place where he looks down on the Sengoku era the most. You really don't believe it. Let alone a civil war. Carl shook his head. It's one of the things Tsunade takes pride in his last name. Otherwise, it's not just one Uchiha who was pressed against the coffin by him. This is also the body of the younger brother. The father and the like inside have been destroyed long ago, and Tobirama couldn't find it even if he tried to find it. The spiritualization technique was created to torture Uchiha's soul, and the impure world reincarnation was created to make Uchiha restless after death and become his puppet at will. After all, the deaths of several of his younger brothers were related to the people lying inside. But do you know what Tobirama's original intention for creating these two forbidden techniques is? Not to mention crushing his coffin, crushing his corpse, Tobirama can do it even if he is crushed to ashes. Tsunade's pretty face changed slightly. If it involves his other third and fourth grandfathers who died at a very young age, it is not difficult to understand that Tobirama would do this. After all, the Senju clan has always been regarded as a clan of love. Have you heard of spiritualization technique? Have you heard of impure world reincarnation? Chapter 145 Master Carl, you already knew that Uchiha Madara is not dead. Part 3 asks for subscription. Who is he? Orochimaru mused, but wasn't entirely sure. After all, this guess is really a bit unbelievable. Is he the mastermind behind the scenes? Sarutobi Hiruzen stared intently at the coffin that was crushed by Senju Hashirama's body. You will know if you open it and have a look. Carl shrugged, as if the secret behind the scenes was in front of him, and you opened it manually. All the people present looked at me and I looked at you. Suddenly, the atmosphere in the cemetery became extremely oppressive and heavy. A man behind the scenes. In the end, Orochimaru's eyes flashed with deep interest, and then he stepped forward, and under the gaze of Tsunade and others, he stretched out his hand and slowly lifted the coffin board that had been pressed by Senju Tobirama for many years. Grunt. A burst of swallowing saliva suddenly sounded from Jiraiya's throat, which was very clear in this atmosphere and silent environment. Except for Carl, even Orochimaru felt slightly depressed, 15 and nervous at this moment. However, as Orochimaru lifted the coffin panels completely, they were all stunned by the empty coffin. Empty. Jiraiya looked at the coffin with nothing in front of him in surprise. He was a little unbelievable at first, and then his expression became extremely dignified, even ugly. He, it seems that the most unlikely thing has become a reality. Cold sweat formed on Orochimaru's forehead. He didn't expect that the conjecture he had just vetoed turned out to be a fact. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't speak, but the blood on his face was fading at an alarming speed. Just kidding. Tsunade let out a breath. Uncle Carl, have you made a mistake? There's nothing here. At this time, only Uzumaki Kushina, who has a carefree temper, has not realized the seriousness of the matter. Instead, he was asking if Carl had made a mistake. It's because there's nothing inside that the problem is big. Carl stroked Uzumaki Kushina's red hair. Why? Uzumaki Kushina's pretty face flashed a look of bewilderment. What are we here for? Carl didn't answer the question. Find the identity of the mastermind behind the scenes. Uzumaki Kushina replied without thinking. What if I tell you that the person lying in this coffin is behind the scenes? Carl paused every word. There's no one in there. As soon as Uzumaki Kushina finished speaking, his face suddenly changed. It seems that your little brain is finally working normally. Yes, since we are looking for the mastermind behind the scenes, if the mastermind behind the scenes is lying in the coffin, where is the mastermind behind the scenes? Only people who are dead in the eyes of the world, but in fact are not dead at all, can become the mastermind behind the scenes. Quote. Carl couldn't help grinning when he saw Uzumaki Kushina's face change from dazed, confused, to shocked. Then who was this person? Uzumaki Kushina finally realized the seriousness of the matter, and also realized why the expressions of Sarutobi Hiruzen and the others were solemn, so serious that it was a bit ugly. Obviously, these people reacted early on. A man who should have died, but didn't. A person who can be hated by Senju Tobirama, and will be pressed on his coffin after death. A person with the surname Uchiha who can give Sang the confidence to come to the old man. Who else do you think? Carl had 3 questions on his face. Uchiha, Madara. Uzumaki Kushina opened his mouth in surprise, and spit out a name that seemed to have a terrible oppressive force. These 4 words echoed in the cemetery, instantly making Orochimaru and the others feel an indescribable oppression. One of the Sengoku 3 masters. Jiraiya gave a sigh of relief. The strongest Uchiha ever. Orochimaru's mouth curled into a smile, but his hands clenched into fists unconsciously. Uncle, the ninja Shura that Grandpa fought. Tsunade sighed. No wonder. That's right. Only he is the mastermind behind the scenes to make Sang have this confidence. Sarutobi Hiruzen stood there blankly, with a look of emotion written all over his face. Uchiha Madara was indeed not Carl's opponent in the Sengoku era, but the 3 of them can be hailed as the Sengoku 3 masters. Even if they are not opponents, they can fight Carl. At least it won't be as vulnerable as the 5 Kages of this era, or even the first generation 4 Kages. When facing Carl, 180 will collapse at the first touch. Thinking of Carl being stopped by Uchiha Madara, can Konoha stop the 30,000 ninja alliance? Can Konoha's Jonin stop Hokage and other Kage-level powerhouses from the 4 great ninja villages? The more he thought about it, the more ugly Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression became. Didn't he get killed by Shodai? Uzumaki Kushina was a little puzzled. It was killed, that's right. Back then, the old man watched Madara's body being brought back by Tobirama and placed in this cemetery. Carl nodded. Then why isn't he dead? Uzumaki Kushina was puzzled. Izanagi, I think, and only this forbidden technique can explain why the dead Uchiha Madara came back to life and became the mastermind behind it. After all, Uchiha's legendary forbidden technique can avoid death. This time without Carl asking, Orochimaru has already given the answer. Master Carl, you already knew that Uchiha Madara was not dead. Sarutobi Hiruzen was startled by another thing at this moment. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but looked at Carl. Chapter 146 Isn't it Uchiha Madara? It's just a crane tale. Please subscribe for the 4th update. You can't say you knew it long ago. Carl picked his nostrils and said casually. At most, Uchiha Madara was carried into the coffin by Tobirama, and then slipped out of the coffin. The whole process is just watched by the old man. That doesn't matter. That careless gesture. That tone of voice that doesn't take Uchiha Madara's fake death and resurrection into consideration. Let Sarutobi Hiruzen and others feel depressed for a while. Lord Carl, that's Uchiha Madara. Jiraiya couldn't help but said. And then, Carl turned on the faucet in the cemetery and washed his fingers. He's a ninja Shira. Sarutobi Hiruzen followed suit. So what? Carl looked at the pair of master and apprentice in a daze. Fangfo didn't understand why their expressions were so serious and their reaction was so strong. What so what? Uncle Carl, that is Uchiha Madara who was as famous as you and Shodai. He pretended to be dead and resurrected. You are still here relaxed and indifferent to such a big matter. You should have stopped him in the first place. Uzumaki Kushina was a little confused. She observed Carl's expression very carefully, and the relaxed, casual, and indifferent look was not faked at all, but she didn't feel that Uchiha Madara's fake death and resurrection was a serious matter at all. Stop it. Why did the old man stop it? Isn't it Uchiha Madara? It's just a crane tail. Look at what you are making a fuss about. Could it be that you think that the old man should have put him back in the coffin at that time? Carl rubbed his head and looked at Uzumaki Kushina and others with a puzzled look on his face. Isn't it Uchiha Madara? When Jiraiya heard Carl's words and tone, her teeth ached. But thinking about it, it seems to be true. The Uchiha Madara, which we regard as terrifying, falls to Carl, which is another matter entirely. It's just the tail of a crane. Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression darkened immediately. Although he knew that in Carl's eyes, Uchiha Madara might indeed be the tail of the crane, but the problem was that when the words fell into his ears, it made him very uncomfortable. A crane tail is ninja Shira, so what is Sarutobi Hiruzen? The old man had already retired at that time. Not just with Hashirama, but also with Madara. As long as they don't bother the old man won't interfere in their affairs. Carl shrugged. Carl uncle, then you can also tell grandpa them, let them know that Uchiha Madara is still alive, so that they won't be unprepared before they die. Tsunade also reacted. Indeed, for any ninja and any ninja village in this era, the four characters Uchiha Madara represent invincibility, terror, and suffocating oppression. But for Carl, it really is the same thing. As he said, just the end of the crane. A person who regards Uchiha Madara as the tail of a crane, who cares whether he is dead or resurrected. Hashirama and Madara are two guys who are in love with each other. What's the matter with old age? It is true that the relationship between the old man and Hashirama, Tobirama, and Mito is better than that of Madara, but at that time, I also had friendship with Madara, but because of Uchiha Izuna's relationship, this friendship ended abruptly. The grievances and resentments between the two of them didn't involve the old man, so why did the old man make such a fuss? Everyone is the Sengoku Sanji. They all came from the Sengoku era. They are all the patriarchs of the clan. Carl curled his lips, and then said it is a matter of course. But, Uzumaki Kushina was about to say something, but was interrupted by Carl. Speaking of which, Hashirama is the only one to blame for this. It was only stopped by Hashirama in the end. The reason was that Madara was beaten to death by him, so you should not flog the corpse after death. Quote. Especially Tsunade, Sarutobi Hiruzen, and Orochimaru. Nadime doesn't seem like a person who will just let it go, such a person. Carl showed a playful smile when he heard this. At least with Senju Tobirama's hatred for Uchiha Madara, he will never let it go. Sarutobi Hiruzen pondered for a moment. What do you think is the original intention of the enchantment in Hokage Cemetery? At that time, Tobirama suspected Uchiha Madara's fake death, and even wanted to dig Uchiha Madara's grave, and the two opened the coffin for an autopsy. Also, why is the Hokage Cemetery set up on the Hokage Rock, right under Hashirama's head? Based on Senju Hashirama's character and friendship with Uchiha Madara, when he heard Senju Tobirama say that he would dig a grave and do an autopsy, he would indeed suspect that Senju Tobirama was actually avenging his own private revenge in the name of Uchiha Madara's death, and wanted to dig a grave and flog him. Household. A tic-tac-toe appeared on Tsunade's forehead. Quote. What happened in the end? As soon as Carl said this, everyone's expression suddenly became strange. She just knew how the wise second grandfather could be so easily deceived by Uchiha Madara. Nonuo Jiao. But she didn't expect that the pig teammate was brought by her uncle. Although Senju Hashirama is the only person who can persuade Senju Tobirama is not easy to deal with. Such an important matter should not be so easy to let go. Sure enough, everything is due to the help of pig teammates. The three of them are too familiar with Senju Tobirama's character. Chapter 147 First Hokage He. Awesome. The fifth update asks for subscription. The reason for the barrier. That, of course, is to prevent anyone from prying into the secrets of the two grandpas. After all, whether it's Grandpa's wood style and sage body, or second Grandpa's mindful forbidden technique, they are all the power that ninja villages in all countries long for. Tsunade said without thinking. As for why it was set up under the head of Shodai, it should be for concealment. Uzumaki Kushina also followed suit. Do you think so too? The playful look on Carl's face intensified. Probably. Sarutobi Hiruzen, Orochimaru, and Jiraiya looked at each other, and felt that Tsunade and Uzumaki Kushina's speculation was very reasonable. Then if the old man told you that the reason why Hokage Cemetery set up a barrier in the first place was that Hashirama wanted to prevent his brother from digging Uchiha Madara's grave, what would you do? As soon as Carl finished speaking, the expressions of Tsunade and others darkened immediately. Grandpa, you idiot. Tsunade covered his pretty face, looking speechless for 000 Senju Hashirama's IQ. She just said it. How could Senju Tobirama let go of such a big matter as Uchiha Madara's suspended animation? Feelings are when Senju Hashirama was not dead, he had been doing everything possible to prevent his younger brother from digging the grave, opening the coffin, and performing an autopsy. This has led to Senju Tobirama's speculation has not been confirmed. Shodai's move is really wise, as expected of a big brother who knows his brother well. After Uzumaki Kushina was stunned for a while, he was also amazed. The enchantment was established not to prevent others from stealing the corpse, but to prevent his younger brother from digging his friend's grave. Then, Master Carl, why did Shodai choose the cemetery under his avatar? After learning about Senju Hashirama's many classic operations, Orochimaru, an indifferent person, couldn't help asking. Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression changed slightly when he heard his disciple's question. In the past, this cemetery was very small. It was called the Hokage Cemetery, rather than the cemetery set up by Hashirama for Madara alone. It was only later that Tobirama, a clever little ghost, wanted to target Uchiha Madara during his lifetime, and he would also press his coffin after death, and proposed that Hokage should be buried here in the future after his death. This is the scale it is today, and it has been expanded. Carl glanced at Sarutobi Hiruzen with a half smile, as he lowered his head and dared not look at anyone. What does that have to do with Grandpa choosing to bury Uchiha Madara here? Tsunade asked puzzled. Still understand. This cemetery can only accommodate one coffin, there is no extra space. After Hashirama buried Madara here, he used earth style to completely seal the cemetery in the mountain of Hokage rock, and then reinforced it with an enchantment. It can be said that there is no way to enter. Even if Tobirama wants to go in, he can only break the barrier first, and then dig Hashirama's head, only then can he dig Fang Zibo Madara's grave. Likewise, if Tobirama wants to play disco in front of Madara's grave, he must first move Hashirama's avatar, otherwise, it is equivalent to disco dancing on his brother's avatar. Carl couldn't help grinning when he said this. This time it wasn't just Sarutobi BFCI Hiruzen, even Tsunade lowered his head, looking shameless. At this moment, she couldn't help but curse in her heart. Usually, I don't see my grandpa think so thoroughly. When he is a teammate of pigs, he calculates every aspect of his younger brother to death. Sure enough, Uchiha Madara was able to be resurrected from the dead and become the black hand behind the scenes, all thanks to his great-grandfather. This consideration is really very thorough. Orochimaru turned his head away, afraid to be seen smiling. Shodai awesome. Jiraiya smiled awkwardly. This kind of superb anti-brother method, no wonder Senju Tobirama has been unable to open the coffin for an autopsy. Such a strict defense, even a witty Senju Tobirama is helpless. Second grandpa, you shouldn't just give up like this. Although Tsunade felt ashamed of Senju Hashirama's behavior, but considering Senju Tobirama's wit, he should not give up just like that. Of course not. That boy Tobirama is a smart bunch. Seeing that this level of big brother is strictly guarding against death, knowing that being tough is not enough, he will come to be soft. That guy is a forbidden technique, and there are many solutions. Quote. Carl shook his head and laughed. For example, impure world reincarnation. I thought about using impure world reincarnation to verify the life and death of Uchiha Madara. As soon as these words came out, the eyes of Tsunade and others brightened at first, but then dimmed immediately. No, it's Grandpa again, Tsunade said with a little embarrassment. Shao Tsunade, you are indeed Hashirama's granddaughter, and you have guessed everything about your great-grandfather. It's true that Hashirama, who has always been careless, has been involved in Uchiha Madara's matter, and his wisdom has been displayed at a high level. Even when he competed with Tobirama, his wisdom once gained the upper hand. He predicted your second grandpa's next move. When Tobirama used impure world reincarnation, he directly sent Tobirama an arrest scene. In the end, he kept destroying impure world reincarnation and forced Tobirama to seal up impure world reincarnation get up, and he is not allowed to continue studying this technique. Quote. When Carl said this, he couldn't help laughing anymore. At the beginning, he was often amused by the battle of wits between the brothers Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobirama. The 148th highlight moment of Senju Hashirama's wisdom, subscribe to the 6th update. No wonder Nadaime chooses to seal up such a powerful technique of impure world reincarnation. With his character, he shouldn't care about life and death taboos, and things like not disturbing the sleep of the dead. It turned out that it was because of the god of ninja that all Nadaime sealed impure world reincarnation completely. Quote. Orochimaru suddenly realized. He knew the horror of this forbidden technique the first time he saw impure world reincarnation. As the developer of impure world reincarnation, there is no reason why Senju Tobirama would not see the prospect of this forbidden technique. If it can't be opened, then Senju Tobirama also develops impure world reincarnation what to do. But when he found the sealed forbidden technique, impure world reincarnation, in the Konoha forbidden technique library, he found that although this forbidden technique had been developed, it was still close to being fully completed. Based on his understanding of Senju Tobirama's talent, it is impossible to have such a fly in the ointment, and it is even more impossible to choose to seal it up instead of continuing to develop and improve it. It wasn't until Carl uncovered the rest of Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobirama's battle of wits that he realized why. Tsunade looked at Senju Hashirama's coffin. At this moment, she had the urge to play disco in front of the grave. She really didn't expect that the grandpa who had always been careless and not very smart at first sight would be so smart once in a while, and he would be like this. I now understand why Baiyu Zibo Madara's fake death and resurrection were not noticed until the death of first generation and Nadaime. Uzumaki Kushina said dumbfoundedly. This is the highlight moment of Hashirama's life. After all, the person who can deflate Tobirama in this respect is unique in the ninja world. As for Hashirama, in the last period of his life, he kept feeding his younger brother to death. He was stunned until his death. Tobirama couldn't find any chance to dig a grave and perform an autopsy to confirm Uchiha Madara's life and death. Carl laughed. Then what happens after Grandpa dies? I remember that after my grandfather died in battle after being in power for a while. During that time, he asked for proof of Uchiha Madara's life and death. Shouldn't it be difficult? Tsunade frowned slightly. What about after the proof? Carl heard the words and asked back. Of course it's time to deal with Uchiha Madara. Uzumaki Kushina said without thinking. I think it's not that Nadaime doesn't want to seek proof, but that he can't. But Orochimaru and Sarutobi Hiruzen were thoughtful. Why? Uzumaki Kushina asked suspiciously. Grandfather is still alive, and second grandfather naturally wants to do everything possible to prove Uchiha Madara's life and death. If he is dead, of course everyone is happy. If he is not dead, Grandpa can beat him to death again. As far as I know, Grandpa was very cruel at that time. It can be said that he was obsessed with the village. Whoever dares to threaten Konoha, whoever dares to do harm to Konoha, Grandpa dares to beat him to death. Tsunade Yan was stunned for a moment. Shao Suna, it seems that although you didn't inherit Hashirama's wood style and sage body, you didn't inherit his stupidity either. That's not a bad thing. After all, if wood style and sage body are to be exchanged for IQ, it's still not very cost effective. Carl stroked Tsunade's head reassuringly. I understand. Shodai isn't dead, so Nadaime has to make sure Uchiha Madara is dead, and if not, give him a ride. But Shodai died. At that time, Nadaime was not young. He had to protect Konoha and face the threats of the 4 ninja villages. The leaves are likely to perish. Quote. Uzumaki Kushina clapped his hands and suddenly realized. Nadaime is as calm, witty, and thoughtful as ever. Asking for flowers. He does not envy Uchiha Madara, nor does he worship Senju Hashirama. But Senju Tobirama is different. Orochimaru stared at Uchiha Madara's coffin, and the snake eyes flickered. We can understand that he knows that his strength is no match for Master Carl, so, why would he jump out at this time? Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed. The identity of the man behind the scenes is confirmed, 100% Uchiha Madara. This kind of person is the strong man Orochimaru admires from the bottom of his heart. But do you feel that something is wrong? Orochimaru admires Senju Tobirama from the bottom of his heart. All forbidden techniques are developed one by one based on talent, hard work, knowledge, and accumulation. Because in his opinion, the achievements of these two people are based on their own blood, which is the power they are born with. If most of them have the background and conditions of Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama, they are also gods of ninjas. It's Ninja Shura. Sure enough, the most talented and perfect Hokage in the history of Konoha is indeed worthy of the name. Quote. After reacting, he also knew that he had said the wrong thing, so he quickly smiled awkwardly, turned his head and did not look at Tsunade and others. After many years of feigning death, Uchiha Madara has always been very peaceful, at least when facing Lord Carl, she became extremely peaceful. So Uchiha Madara was able to fake death and resurrect, and become the mastermind behind the 4 shadows now. Shodai must have contributed. The 6th update is completed. Please subscribe and support it. I am very grateful. I am very grateful. On. Jiraiya's subconscious words made Tsunade, Sarutobi Hiruzen and others all look at him. Once Shodai dies, don't even dig a grave and do an autopsy, even if he knows that Uchiha Madara is alive, as long as he doesn't jump out. Nadaime can only pretend not to know that he is alive for the sake of safety and security. Chapter 149 The sky is clear. Madara thinks she can do it again. Please subscribe for the first chapter. This is truly incomprehensible. If Uchiha Madara was really resurrected with Izanagi, then he must have lost an eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, and with this age, he is probably old. It's impossible to be like Carl Uncle, who is not subject to age restrictions. Tsunade was puzzled when he heard Orochimaru's analysis. This is what I don't understand. If Madara really wants to be behind the scenes, it should be done when she is the youngest and most bloody after the fake death and resurrection. There is no reason to choose to act when you have lost an eye and are very old. Sarutobi Hiruzen shook his head. As the 100 who inherited Senju Tobirama's will and secretly targeted Uchiha, he knew very well that more than 70% of Uchiha's strength was concentrated on Sharingan. Uchiha Madara with both eyes together can't even beat Senju Hashirama. There is no reason to lose one eye now, but dare to be tough with Carl. Need to say, of course it was Sunny, and Madara felt that she was doing well again. Alright, the man behind the scenes has been found for you, so stop nagging me if there is nothing else. Quote. Carl yawned and walked out of the Hokage cemetery with a sleepy look. By the way, Carl Uncle, I remember you said before that the first generation 5 Kages, like my grandfather, came to this land to visit you before the establishment of the 5 great ninja villages, hoping to build a village here. Tsunade gave Orochimaru and the others a wink, as if you should figure out what to do next, and then quickly followed Carl. There is such a thing, what's wrong? Carl said without looking back. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just a little curious, what method did Grandpa use to win the other 4 shadows? After all, his strength does not have any advantage in front of you, and his wisdom. Forget it, I didn't say it. Quote. Tsunade's voice was not loud, but in the silent cemetery, it was clearly transmitted to the ears of Orochimaru and the others behind him. You don't want to know. Hearing this, Carl paused, turned his head and glanced at Tsunade with a strange expression. Is this a grudge against grandparents in a previous life? He always has a feeling, as if Tsunade came here specially to indirect the black history. Seeing Carl's expression, Tsunade immediately had a bad feeling in his heart. I would like to know. The corners of Uzumaki Kushina's mouth raised slightly, and Shengshin took Carl's arm and shook it gently. Orochimaru and the others behind the scenes focused on two things. While thinking about Uchiha Madara, they pricked up their ears to spy on Hashirama's black history. It should be out of friendship. After all, Grandpa and Grandpa have a good relationship with you. In comparison, the other four shadows don't have a good relationship with you. Tsunade said hastily. Is it really? Uzumaki Kushina looked at Carl anxiously. Such a normal practice, this kind of behavior of playing the family card, does not seem to be in line with Senju Hashirama's wit. This. Carl looked at Tsunade, then at Uzumaki Kushina, a little confused. After the two are old friends, it seems a bit awkward. Carl uncle, say what you want. It's okay, I can take it. Anyway, I have even seen the matter of the elder grandpa taking strict precautions against the second grandpa, and this time is not bad. Tsunade forced a smile. She just looked at Carl's expression at this time and knew that Senju Hashirama must have made a very classic operation at that time. Actually, it's nothing, just Hashirama's first move as soon as he entered the door, which caught the old man off guard. It's so embarrassing that I don't agree with him. Carl recalled Senju Hashirama's actions at that time, and the expression on his face was also a bit confused. Sensei Sarutobi, do you know what Shodai did at that time? Jiraiya couldn't help but whispered in Sarutobi Hiruzen's ear. Do you think Nadaime will talk about his brother's black history in front of me? Sarutobi Hiruzen glanced at Jiraiya. In the hands of second Hokage, he still dares to inquire about this kind of secret. Does he still want to take the position of third Hokage? He just doesn't like to ask questions as much as Danzo, which is why he wins Senju Tobirama's favor time and time again. After all, whoever has a big brother like Senju Hashirama will have a headache as a younger brother. What did your lord do? Uzumaki Kushina just put some eye drops on Tsunade, but now he is really curious. It's nothing. Hashirama just knelt down and said to the old man as soon as he entered the door, that he wants to build a village here. Carl scratched his hair, dumbfounded. He still remembers to this day that when Senju Hashirama entered the door, he knelt down directly in front of sighing with a bang. Although Tsunade was mentally prepared, he was still dumbfounded when he heard Carl speak. As expected of the god of ninjas, it really is first Hokage. Orochimaru, Sarutobi Hiruzen, Zillai 4.6, and Uzumaki Kushina thought in unison. He is so generous, what can I do? I have to promise him. Carl shrugged helplessly. Then the four shadows of the first generation just left. Tsunade rubbed his aching temple. Can you not go? As soon as the old man nodded, Hashirama was so excited that he opened wood style on the spot. The tree world came, and the terrain was greatly changed. Seeing the other four shadows, they thought that Hashirama opened the tree world to keep them, so they ran away on the spot in fear and panic. The competitors have all run away. Even if the old man repents, he can only let him build Konoha. Quote. Carl spread his hands, revealing Konoha's secret of building a village. Chapter 150 Madara, if possible, I really don't want to kill you. Part 2. Please subscribe. What's wrong? Kazuna, knowing your grandpa's glorious past, can't accept it. After leaving the cemetery, Carl glanced at the preoccupied Tsunade. Carl uncle, do you think my great-grandpa spent the rest of his life dragging down the second grandpa? Maybe you don't believe it. Just now when I saw the coffin of the great-grandpa, I only had two thoughts, to jump on it to dance, and to press the coffin board of the second grandpa on the coffin board of the grandpa. Quote. Tsunade hesitated, but said it anyway. What kind of person is Hashirama? I don't want to comment too much. After all, you were not born in the same era as us. No matter how you search for history, no matter how you try to understand it, what you can see is very one-sided. I just want to tell you that the most extravagant, most precious and rare thing in the Sengoku era is the relationship between people, which is not limited to love, but also family and friendship. Your grandpa may be a fool, an idiot, and has been holding back Tobirama, Senju, and even Konoha, but he did try his best to keep family, love, and friendship all his life. Just ninjas, not gods. Carl sighed, patted Tsunade on the shoulder, and walked towards his cabin. Uncle, what are you holding on to? Uzumaki Kushina watched Carl's back. I didn't guard anything, and I didn't guard anything. Carl kept walking, but his tone paused slightly, and then he continued. Your current ninjas say that the ninja world was the most turbulent in that era of the old man, but in the eyes of the old man, it was the ugliest era I have ever seen. Born in the Sengoku era, I have seen all the ugliness in the ninja world, and the old people don't believe in anyone, so Hashirama, Madara, they all have downfalls, they are both vulnerable, and they all have times when they are hurt by love, but the old people have no limits. If you have to say it, the old man should only guard himself. After speaking, he left without looking back. It's the first time I've seen another side of Uncle Carl. Uzumaki Kushina looked at Carl's back, which had changed from being haughty and heroic in the past, and seemed a little lonely at this time, and suddenly felt a little sad. The word, strongest, has to bear too many things. Tsunade's heart was touched strongly. At this time, she seemed to understand a little bit why Carl would watch Uchiha Madara's fake death and resurrection, but chose to ignore it when he left Konoha. No matter how powerful a ninja is, they can't withstand the change of the times. Carl has, but in the era after the change, those familiar footprints have been ruthlessly covered up by the years. Even if you dominate two eras, the people you know, the things you are familiar with, and the things you have experienced are all in the past and no longer exist. For Carl, Uchiha Madara may be a source of comfort and comfort. It is also this feeling that maybe he will ignore all kinds of Uchiha Madara. After learning the identity of the mastermind from the cemetery, Sarutobi Hiruzen immediately held a meeting. While arranging the villagers to shelters, formulate a battle plan. The name of a person, the shadow of a tree. The four characters Uchiha Madara represent an insurmountable peak in the ninja world. At least that's the case for all ninja villages in this era. In order to deal with Uchiha Madara, 3rd Hokage directly tore off the skin of the benevolent elder in the past, and directly ordered Uchiha Fugaku to hand over all information about Uchiha. His gaze, as if piercing through time, saw Senju Hashirama who is not dead, and Uchiha Madara who has not left Konoha. What's more, there is still a man in Konoha who has suppressed Uchiha Madara for an era 283. Madara, I really don't want to kill you if I can. But why did you come so fast? The old man always thought that there were at least 10 years before that day. No one knows what Carl thinks about Uchiha Madara's strong return. Naturally, the Uchiha clan was very resistant to this, but this time it was not only the F4 headed by Sarutobi Hiruzen, but also the major ninja clans that put pressure on them. Gradually, when he looked at the Uchiha tribe, his eyes became a little blurred and a little tranced. During this period, he didn't talk to anyone, but looked at the Senju clan field from time to time, and looked at the Uchiha clan field from time to time. Of course Uchiha betrayed this man. The person who can prove that the old man existed in the Sengoku era, who can prove that the old man is still alive, and who can talk to the old man, you are the only one left. On the Hokage rock, I sat on the head of Senju Hashirama for 2 days. At this time, no matter how proud and arrogant Uchiha is, he dare not step on it. Uchiha, who just had this kind of thought, saw a burly figure appearing on the head of Hokage rock Senju Hashirama at some point, and they instantly crushed the small thought in their hearts. Carl leaned against the Hokage rock lightly, muttering in his mouth. Includes Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, and Uchiha Madara's secret of pupil art. Of course, some Uchiha had other thoughts after learning that Uchiha Madara was behind the scenes. In the face of this overwhelming trend, although Uchiha is unwilling, he can only hand over the information of Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan with hatred. So what if Uchiha Madara is alive?